Welcome back. The fears that guide us aren't the loud ones. They're the ones we never speak about. They make you hesitate before you take a chance, nod when you want to disagree, and pretend you're fine when you're not. The scariest ones aren't the monsters in the dark. They're the quiet beliefs that shape what you do without asking permission. Tonight, we'll bring those hidden fears into the light, gently, one by one. So get comfortable, because this is going to be a long one. The room goes quiet, not because it is, but because your brain just muted everything except your mistake. Your hands go warm, your vision narrows, and one thought shouts above the rest. Everyone saw that. Everyone saw you. Here's the twist. What you're afraid of isn't only failure, it's exposure. It's the story your mind writes about what failure means. That it proves you're not capable, not worthy, not who you said you were. When the moment matters, that story gets loud. Picture this. You're presenting something that cost you late nights and real hope. A slide glitches. Your point lands crooked. You feel the ground tilt. The meeting ends and your brain replays it on a loop, frame by frame, adding commentary that gets harsher each time. Meanwhile, most people moved on to their next thing. Psychologists call this the spotlight effect. We imagine a stadium's worth of eyes on us when most folks barely noticed. But your nervous system didn't get that memo. It's busy trying to protect you from shame. So let's reframe it. Failure isn't a verdict. It's data. It's loud, yes, but it's information about what the work needs next, not a judgment on your worth. Growth mindset sounds cliché until you feel it in your body. I'm still learning, not I'm exposed. How do you make that real when it counts? Start by naming the fear out loud, even if it's only to yourself. I'm scared they'll think less of me. Naming calms the drama. Then anchor to process over outcome. Ask, what was in my control? What tiny change would raise my odds next time? Create a quick after-action note. One line for what went wrong. One line for what I learned. That's it. No spiral. And here's the part most people skip. Build a small arena where failure is safe. Practice in front of 2 colleagues you trust. Ship a rough draft to 1 friendly reader. Say yes to the low-stakes stage so your nervous system learns this is survivable. Courage grows from reps, not perfection. Still worried about everyone seeing it. Everyone isn't watching. They're busy with their own fear. Also, remember identity drift. When we tie who we are to a single performance, any stumble feels like a collapse. Tie it to values instead. Honesty, effort, curiosity. You can fail at a task and still live your values in full view. That's integrity. People respect that more than flawless execution. You will fail at important things. You'll be seen. Let that be the point. Visibility plus learning turns pain into signal and signal into progress. The crowd you fear is smaller than you think, and the voice that matters most, the one that says, try again, gets stronger every time you do. You feel it before you hear it, that tiny snap in your chest when you're about to ask for something that matters. Your mouth goes dry, your finger hovers over send, and somewhere inside, a voice rehearses the worst-case answer. No. A small word with a big echo. But here's the truth you rarely say out loud. You're not just afraid of the word. You're afraid of what you think it means about you. That you're too much or not enough. That you misread the room. That you don't belong. Our brains are wired for belonging. So the threat of rejection feels like being pushed out of the tribe. Ancient danger wearing a modern outfit. What if no isn't a verdict on your worth, but a boundary about timing, fit, or capacity? What if it's data? not doom. Picture the moment after you risk it. You ask for the meeting, the raise, the date, the chance. The answer comes back, no. Your mind sprints to explain it, and that story is where the pain multiplies. That story says, see, you shouldn't have tried. But notice this. If you're brave enough to ask, you're already in motion. The no didn't stop you. The story did. So let's change the story. Start by naming the fear in simple language. I'm scared they'll think less of me. When you name it, the spotlight dims. Then translate no into clean facts. Not now, not this, not for them. That keeps your identity out of the blast radius. Next, protect your energy with a tiny ritual. 1 breath in, 1 breath out, 1 line in a note. What I asked for, what came back, what I'll try next. That's it. You close the loop without spiraling. Want to build real courage? Create safe reps. Ask for a small favor from a colleague you trust. Share a draft with one friendly critic. Practice hearing no on purpose. Collect a handful of respectful rejections, so your nervous system learns we can survive this. Each no becomes a rep for your ask muscle. And here's the twist. Enough clean rejections sharpen your aim. You start asking the right people, at the right time, in the right way. Still worried about their opinion? Most people are too busy wrestling their own fear to keep score on yours. And if someone does judge you, that's information about them, not a measure of your worth. Say this to yourself before the next risk. I'll ask clearly. I'll accept reality. I'll keep my dignity either way. If it's a no, I'll learn. If it's a yes, I'll move. Both outcomes move me forward. You will hear no when you put yourself out there. Let it be proof you're out there. Rejection isn't the end of the road. It's a signpost. Adjust, reroute, and ask again. You feel the room tilt the moment eyes land on you, like a spotlight swings open and every quiet doubt steps forward. Your palms go warm. Your brain starts arranging apologies you haven't made yet, and all you can think is, what are they seeing when they see me? Here's the strange truth most people won't tell you. That spotlight, it rarely points where you think. Most folks are busy starring in their own late-night reruns, replaying what they said, what they wore, how they sounded. They're not judges in a courtroom. They're more like travelers lost in their own maps. But that fear, the fear of being judged, feels real. It gets heavy. It turns simple moments into high-stakes auditions. You walk, and you imagine the floor is a stage. You speak, and you hear the echo of people's thoughts, even if no one said a word. You catch a glance, a raised eyebrow, a yawn that had nothing to do with you, and your mind fills in the blanks with the worst-case story. What do they think of me? Try this, just for a breath. Name the story your mind is telling. Say it quietly in your head. My brain thinks they hate my shirt. My brain thinks I sound awkward. Naming it doesn't make the fear vanish, but it puts you back in charge of the microphone. You're not the story. You're the storyteller. Now, soften your shoulders. Feel your feet. Take a slow, steady inhale, like you're smelling rain. Exhale, like you're fogging a window. That tiny pause teaches your nervous system that you're safe right now. Not tomorrow in the meeting. Not yesterday in the hallway. Right now. Ask yourself a gentler question. Instead of, do they like me? Ask, who do I want to be for the next 60 seconds? Kind, clear, curious, that's it. One small identity beat, 1 minute at a time. When your brain wants to sprint, you walk. Here's a sneaky trick. Choose your judges on purpose. Most of us hand the gavel to the loudest voice in the room, or the fanciest title, or the person who reminds us of a critic from our past. Take it back. Pick a quiet ally, the person who values honesty or effort or kindness. Imagine you're performing for them and only them. The fear changes shape when your audience changes shape. You can also let the fear ride with you instead of wrestling it in the parking lot. Picture it like a passenger who stomps and complains, but still wears a seatbelt. You can say, "Hey, fear, you can sit there, but you don't touch the wheel." It sounds silly, but it gives you a script. It gives you a way to move with the feeling without letting it choose the direction. And here's the twist. People do judge. We all do. Our brains are meaning-making machines. But judgment isn't a life sentence. It's a first draft. Minds update. Hearts change. You will outgrow someone's opinion of you, and they will outgrow their opinion too. If a glance feels harsh, let it pass through like wind through an open window. You don't have to shut the window every time the air shifts. Want something practical? Break the spell with tiny acts. Meet one pair of eyes and hold it for a heartbeat. Lean into the chair like you belong in it. Ask a simple question that draws someone out. When you shift from being watched to being curious, the stage turns back into a room. If you need words, try this quiet line before you step in. I don't need to be perfect. I just need to be present. Say it again, slower. I don't need to be perfect. I just need to be present. Presence beats performance. Connection beats polish. And kindness toward yourself first changes the entire sound of your voice. What are they thinking when they look at you? Most likely they're thinking about themselves. What if someone really is judging you? Then you learn something about their taste, not your worth. What if you mess up? You will, we all do. But here's the mercy you forget. When fear gets loud, people remember how you made them feel far longer than the exact words you said. Let your warmth trail behind you. Let your honesty be the thing that lingers. There's a version of you who doesn't waste hours rehearsing verdicts that never come. That version still feels fear, but it doesn't bow to it. That version walks in with soft eyes, an open chest, and a quiet plan. Make one promise to yourself you can keep today. One conversation you'll start. One joke you'll let land lopsided on purpose. One goodbye you'll say without rushing. And when the worries flare up, they're looking, they're measuring, they've decided, answer back with a smaller, truer sentence. I'm here. I'm human. I'm allowed to take up space. Let that be your soundtrack. Let it be the drum under your steps, because the world doesn't need a flawless you. It needs a real you. Fear can stand in the corner if it wants, arms crossed, tapping its foot. You'll be busy living, one breath at a time, one brave moment at a time, proving to yourself, not to a jury, that you're already enough. Here's the quiet truth your heartbeat already knows. You weren't born to audition for your own life. You felt it, right? That tiny voice that waits until the room is silent, then whispers, "Not enough." You try harder, you do more, you learn another skill, you check every box you can find, and somehow the finish line moves. It always moves. You measure yourself against someone else's highlight reel, and the tape keeps stretching until it wraps around your throat. Where did that voice learn its lines? Maybe you were praised for being perfect, not for being present. Maybe you were told to be the best, not to be yourself. Maybe comparing became a habit, like breathing in a room with stale air. You got good at spotting what's missing. You forgot how to feel what's already here. That's the twist. The fear of not being good enough rarely shouts. It's polite. It says, just wait, get better, then you can start. It promises safety and delay. It calls itself standards and being realistic. But listen closely and you'll hear its real name. Fear. How does it show up for you? You tell yourself the work isn't ready yet, so you keep polishing until it loses its shine. You say yes when you want to say no, because you're scared that no makes you less lovable. You scroll and scroll and scroll, gathering proof that everyone else is ahead. Then you punish yourself for being behind. You're not lazy. You're protecting yourself from disappointment by never letting the moment arrive. Here's a reframe that can change everything. That inner critic isn't a judge. It's a scared bodyguard. It thinks its job is to keep you from pain. If you don't step out, you can't be judged. If you don't share, you can't be rejected. If you never finish, you can't fail. Make sense to a part of you that only understands danger, but you're not in danger. You're in a life. So let's try something different. Instead of arguing with the critic, give it a seat in the hallway. Tell it you can speak, but you can't drive. It can't grip the wheel when you're building a life. And now, smaller. Much smaller. Your brain wants grand gestures. Your nervous system wants proof. Give it proof. Keep a promise to yourself so small it's almost silly. Drink a glass of water when you wake. Send one message that matters. Write one honest sentence. Step outside for one slow breath of real air. Then say out loud, "There, I did that." Say it like it counts, because it does. Why does this help? Because fear is a storyteller. It thrives on guesses. It crumbles under evidence. Every tiny, kept promise becomes a brick. Brick by brick, you build a path your feet can trust. Not a fantasy, not a pep talk, evidence. When you feel the panic rise, you'll have something to point at, something solid, and you can say, "I've kept my word before. I can keep it again." And here's another truth. Your worth is not a trophy you win. It's the ground you stand on. You don't earn ground. You stand on it. When you start from worth, effort becomes expression, not proof. Work gets lighter. Risks feel possible. Joy stops asking for permission. Pause with me. Hand on your chest. Notice the rise and fall. That's a rhythm that never asked, "Am I enough?" It just does its job. Let your life copy that rhythm. Do the next small, honest thing. Then another, then another. Start where you are, not where you think you should be. What about the days you stumble? You will. Of course you will. That's not a verdict. It's proof you're moving. On those days, use gentleness like a tool. Talk to yourself the way you'd talk to a friend. Not because it's cute or trendy, but because shame doesn't teach. It hides. If you need words to carry, try these. I can be both scared and capable. I can be both learning and valuable. I can be both imperfect and worthy of love. Say them slowly. Let each one land. They're not spells, they're permissions. And when the voice returns, because it will, ask it a question. Not, "Am I enough?" That question is a trap. Ask, "What's the smallest next step that proves I'm here?" Then do only that. Close the loop. Breathe. Let the world get a little quieter. One more image. Imagine you're holding a camera with a zoom lens. When fear spikes, the lens zooms all the way in on what's missing, until the whole world becomes that one flaw. Gently roll the lens back. Widen the frame. Include your effort, your care, the people who love you, the hours no one saw. Include your courage, not the loud kind, the everyday kind. You were not born to chase a moving finish line. You were born to become a home you can live in. The door is open. Step through with whatever you have today. Not perfect, not ready, just you. And that is enough. The ceiling has heard it, the quiet admission you won't put into words. You lie there, staring into the faint glow, and that sentence rises like steam from a kettle you forgot on the stove. No one is truly here for me. It feels sharp but soft at the same time, like pressing on a bruise. You don't share it because you know how it sounds. Dramatic, needier than you want to be. And yet it sits in your chest, heavy as a stone. Everything in the room is so still that your heartbeat sounds like footsteps in a hallway. The phone is right there, a small lighthouse on your nightstand, promising company. But if you unlock it, what happens? You scroll through names that used to be whole people. You open a chat, hover over the keys, close it again. The people who know you don't feel reachable. The ones who are reachable don't feel like they know you. That's the strange math of this hour. What if I vanished? Would anyone notice? How long would it take? And here's the part you don't tell anyone. You've done the brave and obvious things. You've made plans, joined a group, said yes to the casual dinner. You've tried to stay busy, tried to stay funny, tried to make yourself simple when you're actually layered. And still, you're here with the ceiling, telling a secret it already knew. Your mind says this is proof. Proof that you're unlovable, too intense, too much, or somehow not enough. But that voice, the one that sounds so certain, is mostly a guard dog. Loud, vigilant, paws scraping the floor of your chest. It barks to keep you safe. That's its purpose. When it senses even a hint of distance, it howls. And a howling guard dog doesn't ask for evidence. It just reacts. So of course you go quiet when someone doesn't text back. Of course you rehearse the perfect version of yourself before you walk into a room. Of course you pick partners who seem like maybe they'll stay, even when they're standing on one foot and checking the exit. You're not broken. You're protecting your heart the only way you learned. But protection has a price. It narrows the doorway until not even friendship can fit through. It teaches you to pick almost connection because it's easier to lose something that was never fully yours. It makes solitude feel like punishment instead of a place to rest. There's a difference between being alone and being abandoned. Being alone is the fact of a room with one heartbeat. Abandonment is a story layered on top of that fact. The story is loud. The story flashes a highlight reel. Everyone else laughing in warm kitchens, people who found their person, circles of arms pulling each other closer. The story forgets the quiet scenes that never make the reel. The pauses. The people who are also staring at their ceilings in the dark, playing the same film and believing they're the only ones watching it. You are not the only one. Say it with me, just once, even if your voice cracks. You are not the only one. And now, breathe. One slow inhale. Let it fill the ribs and push against your palms if you place a hand there. Hold for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and release. Do that again. Feel the bed hold you up. It's not a cure. It's a reminder. Your body is still here. Your body is a place, and you live there. You can knock on your own door. When the thought returns, no one is truly here for me, try this quieter counter. Maybe not a bright, shiny affirmation. Just something simple, human. I'm here for this breath. I'm here for this minute. I'm here until morning. It's small. Small is enough in the dark. And if your fingers itch for the phone, consider a different ritual. Open the Notes app and write to one person as if you knew what to say without polishing it. Hey, I keep wanting to reach out, but I get weird about it. Miss you. Or, I don't need a fix, could use a voice. Or even, I don't know how to say I'm lonely without sounding dramatic, but here I am. You can send it tomorrow. You can also never send it and still feel a little less alone because you let the words breathe. Sometimes the ache is just your voice begging to be heard by you. That counts. We put so much weight on the idea of the one person who will be there no matter what. But most safety nets aren't one rope. They're a weave. a neighbour who smiles and means it, the barista who remembers your order and asks how you've been, the old friend you text every few weeks with a joke, the group you're still shy in, but you show up anyway, a therapist, a book club, an online comment from someone who gets it. Each thread is small. Together they hold. And yes, you want something deeper. You want the late-night call that always gets picked up, the hand that reaches back without hesitation. That longing is honest. It doesn't make you needy. It makes you human. Keep a little space open for it, like a chair at the table, but don't wait to eat until it's filled. If the night scares you, make it a little kinder. Leave a light on in the hall. Keep a soft sweatshirt near the bed, one that smells like soap or cedar. Play a song that doesn't demand anything from you. Whisper your own name the way you'd say it to someone you love. It feels weird at first. It also builds a kind of trust, slow, quiet, steady. Tomorrow, you can take one small step toward connection, not a grand overhaul, one step. Stand in the sun for a minute. Ask the cashier a real question. Reply to the message you've been avoiding with, "Thanks for thinking of me," or "I'd like to come," or even, "I'm not up for it this week, but I didn't want to ghost you." Honesty is a bridge. It doesn't have to be long to cross a gap. And when the ceiling listens again, because some nights it will, remember the dog in your chest. Thank it for warning you. Tell it you've got this. Place a palm over your heart like you're cupping a small bird, fragile but awake. In that moment, there is someone here for you. It's the person who knows your favourite mug, the way your shoulders lift when you lie, the exact jokes that always land. It's you. It's not the whole answer, but it's a start. The longer you stand with yourself, the less abandoned the room feels. And strangely, that's what draws other people closer, the steadiness. You might find that the more you treat your own presence like a promise, the more often others keep theirs. The ceiling will still be there tomorrow night. So will you. That's two of you already. And when the fear rises, let it pass across the surface of your breath. Let it say what it came to say. Then, when it quiets, whisper back, "I'm here." One tiny memory can hit like a car alarm on a quiet street, and suddenly your whole mind is wide awake. The room is dark, the world is calm, but your brain whispers, "Remember that time?" And there it is, the stumble, the wrong word, the laugh that didn't land. You feel your stomach drop again, your shoulders tense again. You're living it twice, 3 times, 100 times, like you're stuck in a loop you never asked to replay. Why does it feel so loud? Because embarrassment tells a story about belonging. It says, "Don't mess this up or you'll lose your place." That story is old and primal and very persuasive. So the mind tries to protect you by reviewing the footage. It thinks if it analyzes every frame, it can prevent the next mistake. The loop pretends it's helpful, but it's a trap disguised as homework. And here's the twist. Most people aren't studying your moment like you are. There's a spotlight in your head that feels like it's shining on you, but everyone else is standing in their own light, worried about their own line, their own tremble, their own small secret. That tight heat in your face. It's your body's alarm. It surges, then fades. The part that stays isn't the heat. It's the echo you keep chasing. Picture this. You spilled coffee during that meeting. It felt like a symbol for everything clumsy. In your mind, you hear the cup bang and the gasp and the shuffle of napkins. But if you hit pause and move the camera, you'll see someone passing a tissue without thinking twice. Someone else checking their notes because they're nervous too. The scene is still human, just less dramatic when you aren't zoomed all the way in. So how do you ease the loop? Start simple. Name it. Oh, that's the embarrassment reel. Naming creates a tiny space. Space lets you breathe, then shorten the clip. Don't watch the whole movie, just the moment where your voice cracked. Feel the rise of heat. Count a slow breath and let the body settle. Your body is a fast storm. Your mind is the thunder that lingers. The storm passes sooner than the thunder. Now change the angle. Imagine a friend did the exact same thing. Would you judge them forever? Or would you smile and say, "It happens, you're good"? Borrow that voice. Speak to your own heart in that tone. When you soften the voice, the scene softens too. Here's a gentle trick. Put your moment on a shelf for later. Literally tell yourself, "I'll think about this after lunch for 5 minutes, then I'm done." When the thought tries to jump off the shelf, guide it back. You're not pretending it never happened. You're training your mind to respect your time. And when after lunch comes, keep your promise. Give it those 5 minutes. Let it play. Notice how dull it sounds when you actually schedule it. Embarrassment thrives in the dark. It shrinks in daylight. What's underneath the replay is a fear with a big voice. The fear says, if they see me slip, they'll see I'm not enough. But hear this, your worth isn't a glass vase that shatters with one bump. It's a woven rope, tough, flexible, layered with threads you've earned, skills, kindness, consistency, humour. That rope doesn't snap because you missed a word or misread a room. It might sway. It doesn't break. When the memory visits at night, try this. Sit up, put your feet on the floor and say out loud, "I'm feeling embarrassment." Then add, "and I'm safe." 2 small lines, they anchor the boat. If the tide pulls again, whisper one more truth. This is a tiny part of my story, not the whole book. Ask yourself a clear question. What's the lesson that moment gave me? Maybe it taught you to slow down, to double-check a name, to breathe before the punchline. Lessons are quiet. Shame is loud. Choose the quiet voice. It will guide you out of the loop. And if your mind argues, because it will, be curious. Where's the proof that everyone still cares? Not the fantasy, the proof. Most times there isn't any. The audience moved on. The day moved on. You can move on too. Embarrassment is a sign you care about the connection. That's not weakness. That's heart. You're allowed to blush. You're allowed to forgive yourself. You're allowed to keep going. Every awkward moment you've survived has made you more real, more honest, more capable of meeting the next one with a small nod and a softer laugh. So when the memory knocks again, open the door, smile, and say, "I know you." You can sit, but you don't get the remote. Then turn back toward your life, toward conversations that matter, toward the people who love your imperfect, full-hearted self. The loop loses power when you choose presence over replay. The moment passes, your courage remains. And that courage, not the stumble, is who you are. That tiny tremor in your chest when your phone stays silent a beat too long. That's your mind yanking the emergency brake on a road that isn't even there. You know the feeling. Plans lined up like dominoes. And then a breeze blows through and everything shifts. The fear shows up fast. It whispers, if you lose control, you'll lose yourself. But what if that whisper isn't a warning? It's a habit. A story your brain keeps telling because it thinks panic equals protection. Control feels like safety, neat edges, tidy outcomes, no surprises. The truth is simpler and a little inconvenient. Life keeps moving whether you grip the wheel or not. So why does the fear of losing control feel so heavy? Because uncertainty isn't just an idea, it's a body sensation. Tight jaw, shallow breath, that buzz under your skin. The body reads those signals as danger, even when you're only waiting for an email or a test result or someone's mood to settle. And here's the twist. Your body is trying to help. It's bracing for impact. It just doesn't know there may not be one. There's a quieter way to meet that fear. Not by smashing it, not by pretending you don't care, but by sorting what belongs to you from what doesn't. Imagine two circles. One is tiny and close. Your attention, your effort, your attitude. The other is big and foggy. Other people's choices, timing, weather, luck. When anxiety spikes, we rush out into the foggy circle, arms waving, trying to herd clouds. No wonder we're exhausted. What if you walked back to the small circle and stayed there? That doesn't mean you suddenly love uncertainty. It means you choose influence over illusion. You choose presence over prediction. You run the plays you can run, and you stop arguing with the scoreboard. Sounds nice, but how? Start in the body. A long, low breath, then one more. Your mind will say, this is pointless. Smile at it and do another. That breath is you opening a window in a smoke-filled room. The smoke is still there, but now there's airflow. Next, name what you're afraid will happen. Out loud if you can. When fear stays vague, it feels infinite. When you name it, you give it edges. Edges are manageable. Ask a gentle question. What part of this moment is mine to handle? Not the whole mess, just this slice. Maybe it's sending the message. Maybe it's closing the laptop. Maybe it's drinking water and stepping outside. Small things aren't small when they shift your trajectory. A tiny rudder moves a giant ship. Here's another thing your mind might argue with. Surrender isn't the same as giving up. Surrender is putting down what was never yours to carry, so you have room to carry what is. It's not apathy. It's precision. It's saying, I'll steer what I can steer, and I'll stop wrestling the wind. That's not weakness. That's courage. Picture a river. You could try to pin it in place with your hands, or you could learn how the current moves, where it pools, where it quickens, where the rocks hide. One is anxiety. The other is awareness. And awareness doesn't need to control the river. It learns to read it. It learns to ride it. The image sounds poetic, but it's extremely practical. Reading the river means noticing your own patterns when you grasp, when you catastrophize, when you shrink, and choosing one different move, not 10, one. What would it be like to let an unanswered text be unanswered without spinning 1,000 stories? What would it feel like to say, I'm nervous and I'm still okay? What happens when you don't chase the thought that this single setback is a sign of permanent failure? Listen closely. Fear is loud, but certainty only visits in whispers. The whisper says, you can be unsure and still be steady. You can be scared and still be kind. You can be imperfect and still be enough. Losing control doesn't mean losing your worth. It just means the truth is showing. No one holds the sky together with their hands. There are tiny, grounded practices that help. Touch something solid. Feel your feet. Really feel them. Name the colour of the nearest wall. Smell the air. If you can, laugh at how ordinary this all is, because fear hates ordinary. It wants drama. It wants you to sprint. But presence is patient. Presence strolls. Presence says, we'll move when it's time. And when your mind jumps to the worst case, try asking for the best believable case. Not fantasy, believable. Then the most likely case. Let both sit beside the worst case, like 3 chairs in a row, and notice how your body relaxes when it sees more than one door. That's not toxic positivity. That's balanced perspective. That's choice. You'll never catch every curveball. You'll never control every variable. You'll miss cues, misread signs, and sometimes you'll have to rebuild what broke. But you're not helpless. You're human. You can look at the part that's yours, give it your honest effort, and hand the rest back to the world. When the fear rises, remember, you don't need to lock life in place to be safe. You need to be present, to be flexible, to be real. So loosen your grip a little. Feel the wheel, but don't strangle it. Breathe. Choose the next right step, then the next. The river keeps moving, and you're learning how to move with it, not by owning the water, but by trusting your stroke. The heaviest promises are the quiet ones you make in your head, the ones nobody hears, but you carry like a packed suitcase you're too scared to set down. You nod, you smile, you say yes. And underneath it all, you whisper, "Don't let them down. Don't let them down." Ever notice how that fear shows up in your body before it reaches your mouth? Tight jaw, short breath, the little heat in your chest when someone asks for one more thing, and you already know you're stretched thin, but you say sure anyway. You've been the reliable one for so long that reliability feels like your identity, not a choice. Where did that start for you? Was it the first time you saw disappointment on someone's face and thought, "I caused that"? Was it praise for being so mature, so helpful, so on top of it, and you learned that love comes with conditions you have to meet? Or did you simply become the one who holds everything together because somebody had to, and it fell to you? Here's the honest thing about the fear of letting people down. It's not just fear, it's love, tangled with worry and habit and old survival strategies that worked before and now just keep you stuck. It's the desire to be worthy, mixed with the belief that worth is something you earn by carrying more than your share. And when you do let someone down, because of course you will sometimes, that fear tries to make it permanent. It tells you, this is who you are, a disappointment. Listen closely. That voice is lying, and let's slow it down. When you drop the ball, that doesn't make you the ball. You're not your latest mistake. You're the person who can respond to it. Repair beats perfection. Every time. Start simple. Name what happened without dramatics or excuses. I said I'd be there, and I wasn't. Then take a breath and show your plan. Here's what I'm doing to make this right. Give a path, not a promise you can't keep. And if you truly can't fix it, say that clearly and offer something real you can do. Worried they'll be angry. They might be. That's human. But you don't control their emotion. You control your honesty, your effort, and your follow-through. That's where trust grows. And here's the twist. If you never let anyone be disappointed in you, you never let anyone know you fully. You keep performing a perfect version of yourself. Performances get applause, not intimacy. Real connection is built on truth, and truth includes limits. You're allowed to have limits. Say it out loud. I want to show up for you. And I also need to be honest about what I can do. That's not selfish. That's sustainable love. If you stay silent and overpromise, you end up breaking trust later. If you speak early, you give people a chance to plan, to adapt, to meet you where you are. What about the people who counted on you most? The ones who still live inside your bones when you think of disappointment. Maybe it's a parent you couldn't save from their own storms. Maybe it's a mentor whose eyes were always on your grades, your achievements, your next big moment. Maybe it's a partner or a child who needed more than one person could ever give. You didn't fail those people by being human. You carried more than you should have. You did it because you're full of love, and now your job is different. Your job is to stop pretending you can carry everything. Your job is to be honest earlier, to ask for help sooner, to let the people who love you meet the real you. Not the exhausted version who's trying to deserve her place by saying yes to everything. Try this if you need the words. I'm realizing I've been saying yes when I mean maybe, or even no. I care about you, and I want to be exact about what I can do. Here's my limit, and here's what I can commit to. Then ask the question you usually skip. How does that land with you? Notice the difference between guilt and responsibility. Guilt says, I'm bad. Responsibility says, I have work to do. Guilt freezes you in shame. Responsibility moves your feet. If someone weaponizes disappointment to control you, to keep you compliant, pause. Their feelings matter, but they don't get to be the boss of your life. That's a boundary. Boundaries protect love. They don't shrink it, they shape it. And when your fear spikes, remember the paradox. Being reliable doesn't mean being invincible. It means being consistent with your truth. It means showing up when you can, speaking up when you can't, and being courageous enough to repair the moments that go sideways. So, what's behind this fear for you? Is it the belief that love is earned? Is it the worry that one mistake becomes your whole identity? Is it the habit of rescuing everyone to avoid your own needs? Whatever it is, name it out loud. Shame loses power when it's spoken, and then practice the rhythm of real trust. Tell the truth. Offer repair. Hold your boundary. Repeat. If you let someone down recently, go first. Reach out. You don't have to have perfect words. Try simple human ones. I missed it. I'm sorry. Here's what I can do now. And if they can't meet you in that place, grieve it. Then keep practicing with people who can. You'll feel lighter when you put down the invisible scoreboard. You'll breathe easier when you stop grading yourself on what everybody else needs. And you'll find, slowly, that the people who truly count on you aren't counting your flawless wins. They're counting on your honesty, your presence, your willingness to keep turning back toward them and toward yourself. You won't always get it right, but you can be right here, right now, with your whole heart. That's not letting people down. That's letting yourself be human. And that's where real trust and real love begins. Your heart knows the sentence. Your mouth pretends it forgot. You feel it rise to the edge of your tongue, and then it dissolves. You smile, you nod, you go quiet. Later, you replay the moment like a scene you could have nailed if you'd only said the line. Why does this keep happening? Why do you swallow the truth when it matters? It's not because you're weak. It's because your body has learned that silence feels safer. Somewhere, maybe years ago, speaking up got you eye rolls, anger, or distance. Your nervous system made a note: avoid confrontation, protect connection. So now, in the split second when you know you should say something, you feel a squeeze in your chest, a spike of heat, and a whisper that says, not worth it. But what's the cost of staying quiet? It starts small. You excuse the missed boundary. You forgive the snide comment. You let the credit slip away. Over time, silence becomes heavy. Resentment sneaks in, one pebble at a time, until your pockets are full and you wonder why everything feels hard. Here's the truth you already know. Avoiding conflict doesn't create peace. It creates distance. It creates confusion. It creates a version of you that thinks being agreeable is the same as being kind. What if confrontation isn't a fight? What if it's a bridge? When you strip the drama away, confrontation is just clarity with a heartbeat. It's you saying, here's what I saw, here's how it landed, here's what I'm asking for. It's direct, but not cruel. It's firm, but not cold. It's, I care about this, and I care about us. Think about the last time you stayed silent. Maybe a friend joked at your expense in front of others. Maybe a co-worker took the spotlight and left your work in the shadows. Maybe someone you love keeps crossing a line you've hinted at but never named. You went home, replayed it, and told yourself, I should have said something. You're not wrong. You also don't need a perfect speech. You just need one clear doorway. Try this. Start smaller than the whole issue. Begin with the opening line. Something like, there's something I want to talk about, and I'm a little nervous. Can we take a minute? That's honesty. It sets tone. It signals good intent. Then walk through the 3 beats. What you observed, how it affected you, and what you want next. Keep it simple, almost plain. When you said X, I felt Y, and I'm asking for Z. No courtroom language, no monologues, just human to human. What if they get defensive? It might happen. Defensiveness is just their nervous system doing what yours does. Let the first wave pass. Don't match their volume. Match your values. You can say, I'm not attacking you. I'm trying to be clear. I care about this. I care about us. Then repeat the request. Calm is contagious. But what if your voice shakes? Let it shake. A trembling voice can still draw a boundary. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is movement with fear. A shaky boundary is still a boundary. Here's the twist most people miss. Confrontation is an act of care. It says, I respect you enough to tell you the truth. It says, I respect myself enough to name my line. It's kindness with a backbone. If the idea of a big confrontation feels impossible, try a micro one. Correct your name when someone shortens it without asking. Ask a waiter to fix your order, even if you'd usually just tough it out. Tell a friend, I want to hear you, but I keep getting interrupted, and it's hard for me to share. Small reps train your nervous system to tolerate the heat and discover it doesn't burn. And if the situation truly isn't safe, emotionally or physically, your job isn't to be brave in the lion's mouth. Your job is to build a plan, get support, and protect yourself. You're not a hero for staying where you're harmed. You're wise for choosing where your voice will be honored. Notice the story you tell yourself about being difficult. Difficult for whom? For people who benefit from your silence. You're not difficult. You're clear. There's a difference. Clarity is kindness. Clarity keeps relationships honest. The people who love your well-being will feel relief when they know where you stand. So practice the pause before the silence. Breathe once, slow. Drop your shoulders. Feel your feet. Name one feeling out loud, even if it's just, I feel anxious. Then deliver the simplest version of the truth you can manage. Aim for 1 sentence, not 20. You can always add more, but you can't unsay what was said in panic. Will it always go well? No. Some conversations will be messy. Some relationships will resist the upgrade. But that's not failure. That's data. That's your life getting more honest, even if it's less convenient. Your voice is not a weapon. It's a bridge. It's the way you meet yourself in the mirror and know you didn't abandon your own needs to keep the peace. And it's the way you offer other people a chance to meet you where you really are. Say the line you've been rehearsing. Say it imperfectly. Say it with a shaking breath. Say it because silence has asked enough of you. You're allowed to be clear. You're allowed to be heard. You're allowed to be both kind and firm. That isn't cruelty. That's courage. That's care. That's you choosing connection over quiet. The crowd surges forward, the music shifts, and it feels like the floor moves without you. Friends are catching flights, switching jobs, falling in love, posting sunsets from somewhere you can't even pronounce. And you're staring at your ceiling, wondering when your invitation gets here. Here's the quiet truth. You rarely say out loud. You're not jealous of their exact life. You're scared of the possibility that your turn isn't coming. That the door's closed, the train's gone, and you're left on the platform with nothing but your bag and your thoughts. Ever feel that drop in your stomach when the group chat lights up and you realize they made plans without you? The mind reads it as danger. It tells a story. If they move on, you'll be forgotten. Psychologically, your brain treats being left out as a threat to belonging, so it pushes you to chase, to compare, to hurry. That urge to sprint is loud, but it's rarely wise. So pause just for a breath. Name the feeling. This is fear. Not failure, not proof, just fear. And here's the twist. When you acknowledge it, it loosens its grip. Name the feeling out loud. That simple acknowledgement lowers emotional resistance and opens the door to kinder choices. Picture this. You see a friend post about a promotion. Your chest tightens. The reflex is to scroll faster, to find a distraction, or to beat yourself up for being behind. Instead, try a different move. Say, I'm feeling left behind, and I'm curious what I actually want. Then ask one grounded question. What's one small step I can take that makes my world feel a little more mine? Not a giant leap. One step. Maybe it's sending a message to a mentor. Maybe it's updating a resume. Maybe it's going for a walk to clear the fog so you can think straight. Small steps are honest steps. They turn anxiety into motion. And motion, even tiny motion, changes the story you tell yourself. Here's another scene. You weren't invited to a dinner. That stings. Instead of building a case against yourself, build a bridge to yourself. Who do you feel good around? Who feels like home? Reach out, not to prove you're busy, to reconnect with your own center of gravity. A single hour with someone who sees you is worth a mountain of forced plans. But notice this. FOMO often disguises itself as urgency. Do it now. Be there now. Say yes now. When the pressure spikes, the mind mistakes urgent for important. It's not the same. Important is aligned. Important is yours. So reframe the scoreboard. It's not first to marry, first to buy a house, first to launch. It's, does this choice fit the life I want to live? Does it make me feel more like myself, not less? Ask this slowly. What do I actually value? Whose approval do I keep chasing? And do I even like their life? What's one thing within reach today that would make my day feel a little more true? Sometimes the cure for being left out of their world is stepping back into your own. That might mean reading on your couch and loving every page. It might mean texting the one friend who never makes you perform. It might mean starting the thing you've been scared to start, the class, the project, the practice, not to catch up, but to show up. Here's the part that tends to surprise people. When you anchor your steps to your values, the urgency fades. The comparisons quiet down. Not because the world slows, but because your pace begins to match your breath. Psychologically, choosing aligned action creates a sense of safety. It tells your nervous system, we're okay, we're moving, we belong to something real. Let them move. Let them glow. Cheer if you can. Mute if you need. You're not late. You're on your road. And the only thing you're missing out on is the life that starts when you decide to live it. The ground can shift under your feet while your coffee's still warm. No warning, no vote, no chance to rehearse. One day, the plan is intact. The next, the plan is gone, and you're left holding the pieces, wondering who you are now and where the solid floor went. Change you didn't choose feels personal, like it singled you out. A breakup you didn't see coming, a job that vanished, a diagnosis you didn't ask for, a role that changed before you were ready. You didn't invite this guest, and yet here it is, loud, messy, and not leaving. Fear shows up fast. It tightens the chest, shortens the breath, spins the mind into worst-case headlines. That's not weakness. That's your nervous system doing its job, trying to keep you safe. Fear is an alarm. It's not a prophecy. So what do you do when you can't stop the wave? You ride the board you have. Start by naming the change out loud. Sounds simple, almost too simple, but it matters. When you say, "This is happening," you're not surrendering. You're choosing honesty over denial, clarity over fog. And that gives your brain a handle to hold. Let the first wave of feeling pass without arguing with it. Fear, anger, grief. Let them move through like weather. Breathe low and slow, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Put both feet on the floor, touch something solid, a table, a wall, your own forearm. Look around and name 3 real things you see. This anchors you in the only place where change can be met, right here. Now ask a clean question. What's within my control and what isn't? Draw 2 circles in your mind. In the first circle, things you can move, your effort, how you speak to yourself, who you ask for help, the next small step. In the second circle, things you can't. Other people's choices, past decisions, the timing of a phone call, the weather of the world. Spend your energy inside the first circle. Notice kindly when you wander into the second. Shrink the problem until it feels honest. Not, how do I rebuild everything, but what's the smallest next true action? Send 1 email. Book 1 appointment. Wash 1 dish. When the future feels too big, go small and concrete. Action cuts through static. Keep a small anchor ritual. When change rips up routines, build a tiny one you can carry in your pocket. A glass of water before coffee. A 5-minute walk after lunch. A quiet 3-breath pause before you check your phone. It's not about the ritual itself. It's about telling your nervous system, we still have rhythm. Make room for grief. Even if the change might lead somewhere better, you're still allowed to mourn what was. You can love the old chapter and still turn the page. Grief isn't disloyalty to your future. It's respect for your past. If your identity feels threatened, widen it. You're not only your job, your relationship, your health, your timeline. You're the way you listen, the way you notice details, the way you show up when it's hard. Change can take a role. It can't take your core without your consent. Build a tiny crew. 1 friend who answers late. 1 person who tells you the truth kindly. 1 professional, if you can, who helps you hold the bigger map. You don't need a crowd. You need a few steady voices when yours gets loud. When fear starts writing stories, ask for facts. What do I know for sure today? What am I guessing? What's the most helpful story that's still true? You're not lying to yourself. You're choosing a frame that lets you move. Try this when panic flares. Whisper, I'm allowed to feel scared. I'm still safe in this moment. Then ask, what would courage do for the next 10 minutes? Not forever, just the next 10 minutes. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's motion with fear in the passenger seat, not the driver's. And notice what doesn't change. Sunlight still finds the kitchen. Your laugh still surprises you sometimes. The people who love you still sound like themselves. There's a thread that runs through your days, and it's stronger than you think. You don't have to like the change to work with it. You don't have to approve of it to adapt. You just have to meet it, piece by piece, breath by breath, step by step, choosing the next right thing you're able to do. One day soon, you'll catch yourself laughing at something small. You'll put your keys in a new place and remember where they are. You'll recognize yourself again, not because nothing changed, but because you did, and you made it through. Not by being fearless, but by being honest, present, and a little bit brave. Over and over, the ground may move. Your coffee might still be warm, and you, heart pounding and eyes open, can still find your footing. That's not denial. That's resilience. That's your life, expanding to fit what's already here. The door clicks behind you, soft as a secret, and the room feels 10 sizes too big. Laughter lives in corners. Conversations have their own rhythm. Everyone seems to know where to stand, how to angle their shoulders, when to nod. You stop at the edge like a swimmer testing cold water with one toe, and your smile feels borrowed. Your eyes scan for a familiar face you haven't met yet. Your hands don't know where to rest. You catch a joke mid-air and miss the punchline, and that tiny miss echoes louder than it should. Then the voice comes in, the quiet critic that sounds like you, and it starts arranging your not enoughs on a shelf. Not cool enough, not smart enough, not from here. It's amazing, really, how fast the mind can turn a room into a courtroom. Isn't it strange how belonging can feel like a door that only opens for everyone else? Here's the thing that voice forgets. Your body was built by old alarms. It thinks tribe is survival, and when you can't find one fast, it taps the panic glass. Heart rate up, shoulders tight. Suddenly everything looks like proof you don't fit. The inside jokes, the matching shoes, the way someone pronounces a word like it's a password you don't have, that's fear talking. And fear tries to protect you by making you small. You're not broken, you're human. Take a breath, then another. Feel your feet inside your shoes. Give yourself the simple instruction your nervous system understands. We're safe enough to be curious. Curiosity doesn't need a perfect line. It just needs a first step. So pick one person. Not the loudest, not the most important, just the one who seems like they might look up. Notice one detail, something real. A pin on their jacket, a book under their arm, the way they laugh with their whole face, and ask the lightest possible question. Hey, what's the story behind that pin? How'd you hear about this? Not a performance, a bridge. Here's the twist. When you act like a host, even a little, you belong faster. Hosts don't wait for permission. Hosts create it. You can offer it with a smile that reaches your eyes, with a chair you pull closer, with the simple sentence, I'm new and I'm figuring it out. Vulnerability is a key that looks like a confession, but it unlocks connection. People lean toward it because it sounds like truth. And if the voice insists, if it says you're too much or not enough, talk back to it like you would to a friend who's spiraling. Name what's happening. This is the fear of not belonging. It's loud, but it's not a fact. Say it out loud if you can. Naming shrinks monsters. Ask yourself a better question. What if they're nervous too? What if they're waiting for someone to see them? What if belonging isn't found? It's made. Picture all these conversations, these little islands in a bright sea. Your job isn't to own the ocean. It's to reach one shore, one person who laughs with you, not at you. One exchange that feels natural. Let that be enough. Belonging rarely arrives as fireworks. It shows up as a nod that says, I see you. That's how it starts. Your mind will tempt you to compare. Their clothes, their stories, their ease. But comparison is a mirror that lies. It shows you the highlight reel of others and the behind the scenes of you. It's not a fair fight. So change the channel. Ask about them. People love to be known. Ask what they're excited about. What brought them here? What surprised them this week? Listen like it matters, because it does. Being an attentive witness is a form of leadership that doesn't need a title. And if the room still feels icy, give yourself permission to step outside. Water, air, A pause, you can leave and come back. There's no prize for white-knuckling through discomfort. But when you return, try this small shift. Walk in like you're bringing something, not begging for something. Bring warmth. Bring presence. Bring that one steady breath that says, I can handle being seen. Notice the tiny wins, a smile that lands, a joke that gets a real laugh, a name you remember and then use. Let those moments be proof, not the exceptions you dismiss. Fear loves big stories about permanent exile. Reality lives in small evidence, the kind that stacks slowly until it's solid. There's another truth most people won't admit. Belonging to others is easier when you belong to yourself first. That means you keep company with your own weirdness, your own history, your own way of telling a story. You let the quirks stay. You don't sand yourself down to fit every table, because fitting in and belonging aren't the same. Fitting in is auditioning. Belonging is arms open, no audition required. Start by giving that to yourself. Then watch how it changes the way you enter a room. You'll have nights where the room never opens, where the chemistry doesn't spark, and the awkward hangs around like fog. That doesn't mean you're unlovable. It means it's Tuesday. Not every circle is your circle. Not every party wants what you bring. But that rejection isn't a verdict on your worth. It's a signal. Take your light where it can actually light things. And sometimes, strangely, the moment you stop trying so hard, someone notices. Hey, I'm Sam, they say. And now there are two of you by the snack table laughing about how weird name tags are. The room hasn't changed. You have. You chose presence over performance. You chose to trust the small bridges. So when the door clicks behind you and the air feels thin, remember this. You've felt this before, and you're still here. Breathe. Find one person. Ask one honest question. Offer one piece of yourself that isn't polished, just real. Let the room be a place where you practice belonging, not prove it. Fear will whisper, you don't fit. Smile back and answer, watch me make room. Then take a step, even a small one, and let that be the start. Your name is still on the mailbox, but the mail lands like it belongs to someone else. The barista asks your name, smiling like it's the first time. Your own phone says, who are you, when your face meets the lock screen. You wave at a neighbour and they look through you, the way light passes through a window at noon. You speak and the room doesn't turn. That's the nightmare, right? Not monsters, not falling, but being invisible in a place you've poured your life into. Your ideas, your fingerprints, all the small proofs you existed, gone like chalk in the rain. Here's the strange truth. This fear isn't really about fame. It's not even about attention. It's about belonging. It's about knowing your shape, pressed into someone else's memory and finding a match. It's not about having a statue with your name on it. It's about the ripple your presence leaves in small rooms, on ordinary days, with ordinary people. Not being seen once, but being felt over time. Not spotlight, but thread. That's the shift. Not achievement, but connection. Picture a morning where nobody remembers you. Your partner's eyes skim past. Your closest friend answers like you're a stranger. Even your favourite song on the radio feels like it belongs to public silence now. The instinct is to panic, to claw at the walls, to shout a little louder. But here's a gentler move. Name the fear. Say it, even if it's under your breath. Psychologically, naming a fear can soften its edges. It creates a small pocket of safety, the kind that lets a tightened chest unspool a little. When people feel safe and seen, they open up. That includes the part of you that needs to be remembered. What would you do then if you had to rebuild from zero? You'd start by noticing. You'd learn the barista's name and use it. You'd ask your neighbour about the plant that always wilts in August. You'd send a voice note that says, "I heard that song and thought of your laugh." You'd pick a tiny tradition and keep it alive, a weekly check-in, a postcard, a silly inside joke, and you'd protect it like a candle in wind. Why does that work? Because memory isn't a spotlight. It's a net woven from moments where someone felt especially human with you. It's not the perfect speech you gave. It's the way you paused so they could finish a thought. It's not the grand gift. It's the sticky note that said, "You've got this. I'm here." It's not being the loudest voice. It's being the listener who catches the quiet word that would have slipped by and then says, "I heard you." And here's the twist. The more you choose to see, the more you get seen. The more you anchor others in your attention, the more your presence tucks itself into their stories. We like to think legacy is a mountain we climb once. Really, it's a path we walk daily with small, repeated footprints. The warmth you leave on someone's ordinary Tuesday lasts longer than any glittering one-time moment. So if the fear whispers, "No one will remember you," ask it a question. What if the point isn't to be unforgettable, but to be unforgettable to someone? What if the antidote isn't to gather more eyes, but to give more of your own? And what if the proof that you existed isn't carved in stone, but carried in people? You don't need everyone to remember you. You need a few to feel you. The friend who texts you a photo of a street you once got lost on together. The co-worker who borrows your phrase because it made meetings kinder. The kid who laughs because you always waved first. That's memory. That's being stitched into the soft fabric of a life. In a world that moves fast, choose to linger. In a room that forgets, choose to remember others. The paradox is simple and stubborn and beautifully human. When you make people feel seen, you don't disappear. You leave echoes that keep introducing you long after you've left the room. That's how you live past the moment. That's how you're remembered. Ever felt the room get smaller, even though the walls never moved? That's the quiet terror of being trapped. Not just stuck in an elevator, not just bumper to bumper on a highway. Trapped in a conversation you don't want, a role you never chose, a promise that grew heavier with every day you kept it. The fear isn't only around you, it lives in your chest. It wraps your throat. Your thoughts start sprinting while time drags its feet. You scan for exits that don't exist, and suddenly even simple choices feel like a maze with no map. Does that sound familiar? Here's the hard truth. Feeling trapped is less about the door being locked and more about your nervous system deciding you're not safe. Your survival brain hates uncertainty, so it shouts, "Freeze, don't move, don't speak." And once it shouts, everything echoes. But there's another truth that sits right beside it. The room didn't shrink. Your sense of space did. So let's create space. First, give yourself permission you don't have to use. Whisper it under your breath. Even if you have no intention of leaving, I can walk out, I can hang up, I can say no. Even if you stay, you aren't a hostage to your own life. You're choosing for now. Next, find 1 inch of freedom, not a mile, 1 inch. Unclench your jaw. Loosen your shoulders. Feel your feet on the ground. When your body remembers it has options, your mind follows. That's not poetry. That's biology. Name the cage, out loud if you can. I feel trapped by expectations. I feel trapped by money. I feel trapped by the story that I am the reliable one. When you name it, you can negotiate with it. A nameless fear owns you. A named one meets you at the table. Give yourself a micro exit. You don't need to storm out to reclaim power. You can say, "I need a minute." You can say, let me think about that and get back to you tomorrow. You can say, I can't decide right now. Boundaries don't have to be a brick wall. Sometimes they're a hinge that lets the door swing. Here's a simple trick when panic climbs. Look for 3 exits. One in the room, one in your body, one in your day. The room exit might be a window or a hallway. The body exit is your breath, in through the nose, out longer than you inhale. The day exit is a time limit. I'm staying 15 minutes, then I take a walk. 3 exits, 1 moment of air. What about the traps you can't physically leave? The job that pays the bills, the family role, the commitment you made with your whole heart, and now your heart is tired. Start with truth, not judgment. I'm staying for safety. I'm staying for love. I'm staying because it's complicated. That's not weakness. That's context. Then plan the smallest act of freedom that respects that context. Learn a skill on your lunch break. Put aside a tiny savings cushion. Confide in one safe person. Momentum doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It's a quiet lever, moved daily. Sometimes the trap is your own brain's loop. What if I mess up? What if they leave? What if I'm not enough? Try a gentle wedge, not a sledgehammer. Maybe I mess up. And maybe I learn, maybe they leave. And maybe the ones who stay are my people. Maybe I'm not enough for everyone, and maybe I'm enough for the life that's actually mine. The word maybe cracks the door. Practice exits before you need them. Picture yourself walking out of a meeting calmly. Imagine pressing the elevator button and choosing the stairs. Rehearse the words, I'm going to step outside. When the moment comes, you won't be inventing power from scratch. You'll be reaching for a script you already own. Ask for help. I know that one stings, but isolation is the trap's favourite lock. Text someone 3 words. I feel trapped. You don't need a perfect plan, you need a witness. When someone else knows, the room gets bigger. And here's a reframe that might save you. Not all constraints are cages. Some are containers. A container holds you while you heal, while you save, while you grow. A cage steals your choice. A container protects your choice. If you can't change it or leave it, can you reshape it to become a container for a while? A ritual at the start and end of your workday. A boundary around your availability. A promise to yourself that you break the pattern one small way every single day. If your fear comes from older wounds, panic that surges for no clear reason, therapy isn't weakness, it's oxygen. Trauma tells you there is no door. Healing teaches your body to notice the handle. So, when the room feels tight again, remember this: you are not the walls. You're the one who notices them. You are not the lock. You're the one with hands. Say it softly if you must, or say it loud so you can hear it over the noise. I have choice. I have time. I have options. The fear of being trapped is real, but so is the space between breaths, the inch of shoulder you can relax, the sentence you can speak, the call you can make. Freedom rarely explodes. It leaks in, drip by drip, until the floor is wet and you realize you can swim. And when you're ready, you can walk. Not because the walls vanished, because you remembered who built the door. Your heart isn't panicking because you're weak. It's panicking because it thinks there's a tiger sitting in the 3rd row. That shake in your hands, the dry mouth, the racing thoughts. That's your body yelling, move or hide. It's dramatic, sure, but it's not wrong. It's trying to protect you. The trick isn't to kill the fear. The trick is to teach your body that the stage isn't a jungle and those faces aren't fangs. So let's start before a single word leaves your mouth. Put your feet on the floor and feel the ground. Wiggle your toes inside your shoes. Press them down, then release. That tiny move tells your brain, I'm here, I'm safe. I have footing. Take a slow inhale through your nose, then a longer exhale like you're fogging a window. Longer out than in. That ratio flips the alarm system from red to steady amber. Now name it. Whisper, just for you. This is adrenaline, not danger. Adrenaline is rocket fuel. Untamed, it shakes you. Aimed, it lifts you. When your chest tightens and your throat feels thin, say, I'm excited. It sounds simple, almost silly, but the label matters. It shifts your story from threat to energy you can use. What about the voice? That tremor you dread? Speak on your exhale. Let air leave first, then ride your words on it. It grounds the sound, and pace like a human, not a runaway train. If a sentence wants to sprint, cut it in half. Tiny beats, little pauses. Give your thoughts room to breathe, and your audience will breathe with you. Before you start, find one friendly face, not the whole room. One person. Picture them as someone you care about. Talk to them. Let your eyes return to them when your nerves spike. You don't need to command a crowd. You need to connect with one person at a time. Connection calms the body because connection feels safe. Worried you'll forget your opening line. Give yourself a bridge sentence. Something like, let me start with a moment that surprised me. It buys time. It softens the jump. Then share a small story, even if it's tiny. A first day on a job. A botched toast at a wedding. A time you froze and then found your footing. Stories give your brain a path. Walk the path, and the fear follows behind like a stubborn dog on a leash. Let's talk structure, because chaos fuels panic. Promise, proof, payoff. Promise what they'll get. Offer proof with a story or a simple example. Deliver the payoff with a clear takeaway. Promise, proof, payoff. That rhythm gives you rails when your mind tries to skid. Now the shakes. Everyone thinks they'll see them. Most won't, but you will feel them, and that's enough to rattle you. Plant your feet. Keep your elbows loose and your hands lower than your heart. If your hands want to flutter, give them a job. Hold a pen. Touch the table. Rest a thumb on your first finger and press gently. Better yet, gesture with purpose on the important words. Then let your hands return to neutral. And pause. Pauses look intentional. Pauses feel like control. Breathe during them. The fear is loudest right before you begin, so begin sooner than your anxiety expects. Don't apologize. Don't announce your nerves. Start. First sentence, then the next. Like stepping stones across a stream. And here's the secret. The first stone is the scariest. The second feels easier. By the third, you're walking. What if your mind goes blank? It might. Give yourself a magic line you can always use. Let me say that another way. Or, here's what matters most. Those phrases reboot the engine. They're a handrail you can grab any time. And if silence happens, hold it. Smile, breathe, then step back onto your rails. Make it about them. Fear loves attention. And when you pour all your attention into yourself, fear swells. Shift the spotlight. Ask, what do they need right now? How can I make their day easier? Service shrinks fear. Service gives courage some place to stand. Before you talk, warm up your instrument. Roll your shoulders, loosen your jaw, hum softly. Stretch your face. Whisper a few lines to wake up your tongue. You are not a head floating in space. You're a whole body. Treat it kindly and it will carry you. And speak the truth aloud, even if it feels corny. I am safe. I am prepared. I am here to help. Let those words land. Your brain listens to your voice more than any strangers in the room. Why does this matter? Because your ideas are waiting for air. Because someone in those seats needs your story, your lesson, your laugh, your warning, your hope. because your voice is a bridge, and bridges get people across. You don't have to erase the fear. You just have to hold it by the hand and walk on stage anyway. You'll feel the thud of your pulse, then you'll feel your breath steady. You'll say your bridge sentence. You'll find your friendly face. And then somehow you'll hear yourself. You'll hear clarity. You'll hear courage. It won't be perfect. It doesn't have to be. Perfect is a statue. You're alive. Let your words move. Let them wobble a little. Then let them land. And when you finish, notice the quiet after the last word. That quiet is not fear. That quiet is power settling in. That quiet is your body learning a new truth. You can do this. Not later. Now. Take the breath. Find the ground. Aim the adrenaline. Speak. There's a particular quiet after a fake laugh, like a door clicking shut in a house you thought was home. Your body hears it first. Your chest tightens, your stomach drops, and a small voice whispers what you don't want to believe. You were just used. Is it paranoia or protection? That's the trap of betrayal. It's the bruise you press to see if it still hurts, the mirror you avoid because you know it does. You trusted, they nodded, you leaned in, and then pulled chair, hard floor. The worst part isn't the person who did it, it's the echo they leave behind, the echo that asks, how did I not see this coming? Here's the truth that's hard to swallow. Betrayal isn't always obvious. It's not just lies, it's the slow erosion of a promise. It sounds like, I've got you, paired with actions that say, I've got me. It looks like a friend who's all ears when they need something, then vanishes when you need anything. It's love that cashes in all your softness and pays you back in silence. Your nervous system remembers. After you've been burned, you start mapping escape routes in every room. You pre-rehearse conversations. You scan for exits in faces. The smile becomes a shield. You keep your stories short. You agree when you want to argue. You call it maturity. Deep down, you know it's fear. Pure, raw, survival-level fear. So what now? You could shut it all down. Build a wall, plant a garden on top, and call it peace. But walls keep out the wind and the sunlight. You don't heal by hardening. You heal by learning the difference between a lock and a boundary. A lock keeps everyone out. A boundary lets the right ones in, slowly, with care. Start with this. Name what happened out loud, even if it's only to yourself. Not the pretty version, the real one. They used you. Say it. Because pretending it was no big deal is how the wound gets buried but never really treated. Naming is not weakness. It's the doorway back to your power. Next, listen to your body. The flinch, the tight jaw, the quick, I'm fine. Those are alarms. Think of them like a smoke detector that used to go off only after the fire. Now it's more sensitive. That's not brokenness. That's wisdom. Sometimes too loud, sure, but wisdom just the same. Learn the signals. Ask yourself, is this a trigger from the past or a red flag in the present? If you're unsure, pause. Time is a friend when trust is rebuilding. Trust isn't a switch. It's a dimmer. You don't go from darkness to daylight in 1 second. You nudge the light up. You watch. You see if words and actions match. Not once, but over time. You share a little, and you see how it's held. You say no, and you see if no is respected. You celebrate a win, and you notice if they clap with you or compete with you. Tiny tests, honest results. And you, by the way, this part matters. Keep trusting yourself. Betrayal tries to rewrite your story, making you the fool. You were not foolish. You were generous. You were open. That's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to guard with care, yes, but never to abandon. Self-trust means believing what you feel, not gaslighting your own gut. It means when your body says, something's off, you don't explain it away because you want the connection so badly. You pause, you ask questions, you protect your peace. What if you're afraid that setting boundaries will make you too much? What if you're afraid that caution will scare good people away? Here's the twist. The right people aren't frightened by your boundaries. They're relieved by them. Clear lines reduce guesswork. And the people who disappear when you honor yourself, they're showing you what they were there for. That's not loss. That's clarity. That's your time and heart returning to you. Let's talk about repair. If you've been betrayed, you carry a story that says, this is going to happen again. That story grows teeth. It bites down every time someone gets close. Repair doesn't mean erasing the story. It means editing it. Yes, betrayal happened. Yes, it could happen again. And also, some people are capable of depth, reciprocity, and care. To find them, you have to let yourself be seen in small, safe ways. Risk, but wisely. Share, but with discernment. Let character prove itself over seasons, not moments. And if you're wrestling with anger, let it breathe. Anger is a map. It points you to where your values were crossed. Name the value. Maybe it's loyalty. Maybe it's honesty. Maybe it's consistency. Once you know it, you can ask for it clearly. You can build a life that protects it. You can choose people who live it. One more thing, self-betrayal. It's sneaky. It looks like saying yes to keep the peace. It looks like laughing at the joke that hurt. It looks like staying quiet when your heart is loud. Every time you abandon yourself to stay chosen, you teach your nervous system that safety lives outside you. You are safer than that. Choose you, even if your voice shakes, especially then. So, will you carry the fear like armor and let it rust your spirit? Or will you turn it into a compass that points toward people who earn your trust? You're allowed to move slowly. You're allowed to ask for proof. You're allowed to walk away from almost right, to hold space for right. You're allowed to be soft and smart at the same time. Soft does not mean naive. Smart does not mean cold. The sweet spot is warm and wise. Betrayal tried to convince you that hope is dangerous. But hope, with boundaries, with self-trust, with time, is not dangerous. It's a quiet courage. It's you, standing at the doorway of your life, saying, I'm still open, and I'm not unguarded. I'm still loving, and I'm not blind. I'm still me, and I'm learning. That's not weakness, that's strength. That's your heart. Scarred, yes, but still beating, learning how to let the right ones in. There's a split second when nothing in the room changes, and yet the gravity tilts. Someone says, you've got this, it's on you, and your chest tightens like the ceiling just lowered an inch. The task hasn't grown, but the weight of your name attached to it has. Responsibility isn't a file or a meeting, it's a spotlight. It's the quiet thud of your own heartbeat saying, if this goes wrong, it's on me. You know that feeling, the cursor blinking, the email unsent, the decision circling like a hawk that never lands. Not because you're lazy, not because you don't care, but because choosing means owning. And owning means you can be blamed or judged or misunderstood, so you stall, you polish one more detail, then another, hoping the world will make the choice for you. That's the secret wish, right? For someone else to step in, to point and say, do this, so the blame has a place to go that isn't your chest. Here's the truth your nervous system already knows. Responsibility magnifies possibility. It inflates outcomes until they feel like mountains, and then whispers, climb it with no rope. Your brain hears that whisper and equates responsibility with danger, because danger means loss. Loss of reputation, loss of control, loss of the story you hold about yourself. And when you carry histories, little moments when you were shamed for a mistake or held to a standard no one explained, the present echoes. The weight now isn't just this choice. It's every old stone in your backpack rattling at once. But what if you don't have to carry the whole mountain? What if responsibility isn't one giant weight, but a stack of tiny reversible bets? That language matters. A bet is a choice you're willing to revise. A step is a move you can test. You can pick the next doable thing and commit to that, not to the whole horizon. Choose the email you'll send, not the outcome it might provoke. Choose the conversation you'll schedule, not the reaction you can't control. Choose the next small promise you can keep today. When the fear rises, name it out loud. Name the exact catastrophe your mind is playing on repeat. Say, I'm afraid I'll look foolish. I'm afraid I'll waste time. I'm afraid they'll be disappointed. Then ask, if that happened, could I survive it? Could I repair it? Most of the time, the answer is yes, not painless, but survivable. Responsibility feels like a trap because we imagine one shot, no do-overs. In reality, most decisions can be adjusted, amended, apologized for, or replaced. Your fear argues in absolutes. You get to answer in specifics. Perfection makes it worse. Perfection says only one right path exists, and you must find it before moving. Responsibility says, pick a path and walk. Progress is a handshake between care and courage. Care says, think it through. Courage says, decide and go. When you lean on care without courage, you overthink. When you lean on courage without care, you bulldoze, blend them, think, then move. Move, then learn. Learning is how responsibility becomes lighter, because it converts unknowns into knowns and myths into data. You might be carrying responsibilities that don't belong to you. Notice that too. You're not responsible for how someone interprets your boundaries. You're not responsible for someone else's unspoken expectations. You're responsible for clarity, for effort, for the honesty of your yes and your no. That's it. Draw the circle smaller. Inside the circle, you act. Outside, you influence, not control. Say it to yourself. I own my actions, not the weather. I choose my pace, not the clock someone else set. And here's a quiet shift that changes everything. Stop calling it pressure. Call it trust. Someone handed you this because they believe you can carry it. Maybe that someone is you. Trust can feel heavy too, but it carries a different story. Pressure says, don't fail. Trust says, you're allowed to try. Pressure tightens your breath. Trust opens it. Ask yourself this and give it a beat. What if the responsibility you fear is the exact tool that builds the person you've been waiting to meet? What if the weight you dread is actually shaping strength you don't see yet? What if, instead of running from blame, you ran toward ownership? Because ownership is the only place your power shows up. You don't need to be fearless. You need a relationship with fear that keeps you moving. When the voice gets loud, answer it like a coach, not a critic. Say, I hear you. Here's our next move, then take it. One tiny promise kept today is heavier than 100 plans that never leave your head. And when you do drop a ball, and you will because you're human, pick it up. Name what happened, repair what you can, and carry on. The story isn't that you never stumble. The story is that you're the one who keeps walking. That's responsibility at its core, not the crushing weight, the steady hand, the quiet, repeatable choice to show up again. Breathe. Choose the next step. Let it be small and entirely yours. Then take it. And another, and another. That's how you turn fear into forward motion and weight into worth. That's how you become the person you can trust with a life that matters. There's a quiet thud your heart makes when your life splits into two invisible roads. You feel it in your chest, right before the text you might send, the call you might make, the door you might close. That's the moment your mind whispers, "Careful, one wrong move and it's all over." And suddenly, you're frozen. Not because you don't know what you want, but because you're terrified of ruining it. Let's sit with that. The fear isn't just about choosing, it's about the story that follows the choice. The one where you look back and say, "I should have known. I wasted years. I threw away something good." That story is loud, and it wears a judge's robe. It bangs the gavel before the decision even leaves your mouth. Here's the truth. Your fear won't tell you. Your brain hates uncertainty, and it bargains for guarantees. It thinks, "Give me proof this is right and I'll move." But guarantees don't live here. Life is not a contract with a refund policy. It's a conversation. You say something with your action, life replies, and then you say something again. You learn the rhythm as you move. So what if you make the wrong choice? What if the job is not what you thought? The move doesn't feel like home. The relationship shifts and gets messy. That's the picture your mind paints in thick, scary colours. Now, here's the twist. Most choices aren't permanent. They're adjustable. You can nudge, redirect, renegotiate, step back, or step forward again with clearer eyes. Think of your path less like a glass vase you might shatter, and more like a river you can steer. If you bump a rock, you don't sink the whole landscape. You correct the angle and keep moving. And yes, some choices do matter a lot, but notice how your fear treats every choice like that. It inflates the stakes until even picking a place to live feels like you're chiseling your destiny in stone. Breathe. The mind is a master at making the now feel like forever. It's not forever, it's just now. So how do you actually choose when your stomach is tied in knots? Start by naming what you're truly optimizing for. Not the thing that looks right on paper, the thing that feels right in your bones. Are you optimizing for growth, for stability, for connection, for creativity? Say it out loud. When you name it, you give your decision a compass. A compass doesn't tell you every turn. It just points north. Then try this. Pretend the decision is already made. For one morning, walk as if you chose path A. Notice your body. Notice your breath. Notice the flicker of energy or the heaviness. The next morning, try path B. Feel the difference. Your body has data your brain hasn't graphed yet. Ask a future version of you for advice. Picture yourself older, softer, wiser. That version has survived plenty of wrong turns and lived to laugh about them. What would they say? They'd probably tell you to be kinder to yourself in the messy middle, to move a little sooner, to trust that you're capable of course correcting. And when the fear flares, because it will, don't fight it. Thank it. It's trying to protect you. Say, "I see you, fear. You care about my life." Then invite courage to sit beside it. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move with fear, buckled into the back seat, not gripping the wheel. Here's another reframe. What if the worst choice isn't choosing wrong, but choosing nothing? What if staying stuck is the slowest way to drain your energy, your joy, your sense of self? Every day, you don't choose, you actually are choosing. You're choosing the default. You're choosing to let the current carry you where it wants. That's a choice too. You don't need to leap. You just need to take the next honest step. One email, one conversation, one small experiment that lets life talk back to you. If the step feels too big, make it smaller. If it feels heavy, make it lighter. Keep it doable. Movement gives you information that thinking can't. And when the voice returns, what if I ruined my life? Meet it with a gentler truth. You are allowed to outgrow old dreams. You are allowed to take a turn and find out it's not yours. You are allowed to want something different now than you wanted before. That isn't failure. That's being alive. Imagine looking back 1 year from today, not from a perfect place, just from a place where you chose and learned. Would you be proud you moved, that you risked a little discomfort in exchange for clarity, that you didn't abandon yourself to keep every option open forever? You won't get a universal sign that says this is the right choice. You'll get a quieter sign, closer in, a steadying breath, a sense of alignment, the way your voice sounds when you tell a friend and it rings true in your chest. So take the step. As you do, whisper to yourself, I can adjust, I can listen, I can try again. Let that be your safety net. Not certainty, not perfection, just the knowledge that you are resourceful, resilient, and never truly stuck. Your life isn't a single door that locks behind you. It's a hallway with many doors, and you get to turn the handle more than once. Choose one. Walk through. Let the next doors introduce themselves as you go. Did you ever chase something so hard that when you finally held it, your hands started to shake? You get the job, the client, the trophy, the message back you were waiting for, and suddenly the room feels smaller, the air gets heavier. It's wild, right? You did everything you said you'd do, and yet the very moment you win, your brain whispers a new story. Now you can fail in public. That's the twist nobody tells you. Success is louder. It attracts eyes, opinions, and expectations, and it changes the size of your life overnight. The calendar tightens. People who never checked in start checking in. The bar moves higher, and it keeps moving, as if someone's hand is on a dimmer switch, turning up the brightness on your life, whether you're ready or not. You might feel it as a buzz under your skin, that subtle hum that says, careful, don't break this, don't drop it, don't mess it up. The spotlight can feel like sunlight, and also like a heat lamp, warm and bright, but if you stay there too long without shade, you burn. Here's the honest part most folks skip. Success makes things harder because success multiplies things. It multiplies choices. It multiplies attention. It multiplies what you carry. The same backpack, but more weight. More relationships to tend. More places to be. More ways for fear to pretend it's being responsible. You might start negotiating with yourself. Play smaller, just for a bit. Say yes to everything so nobody gets upset. Keep the pace that got you here, even if your body is begging you to slow down. You'll tell yourself it's temporary. You'll tell yourself you can breathe later. But later never knocks on your door. You have to invite it in. Ask yourself this softly. What exactly am I afraid will happen if I keep this level? Is it that people will expect more? That I'll be revealed as lucky, not talented? That I'll outgrow old rooms and lose old friends? It's okay if the answer is yes. Fear of success isn't fear of winning. It's fear of the ripples. The ripple in your schedule, the ripple in your identity, the ripple in how people look at you when you enter the room. You're not just carrying results, you're carrying a new version of yourself, and that can feel like wearing a beautiful coat that still doesn't fit in the shoulders. So what now? You learn to build shoulders, not by pushing harder in the same way, but by widening your stance. You choose boundaries that keep the oxygen flowing. You practice the sentence, not now. You set a rhythm that lets you perform and recover. Like an athlete who knows the finish line is never the finish. It's a checkpoint. You let yourself be a beginner at your new level. That's huge. You didn't become a different person the second you crossed the line. You just unlocked a different game. New rules, new skills, same you. Give yourself the grace to learn without turning every mistake into a verdict. Mistakes are not proof that you don't deserve it. They're proof that you're alive at this level. And listen to this. You're allowed to disappoint people in order to not abandon yourself. That's not selfish. That's stewardship. The more your life expands, the more you must choose what gets your full heart. You can't hold everything. You can hold what matters. When the voice says, keep everyone happy, remind it that keeping everyone happy is a quick way to lose your own center. When the voice says, don't slow down, remember that growth needs recovery. A rest day is not a retreat. It's maintenance for your courage. When the voice says, you got lucky, smile and say, maybe, and I'm still showing up tomorrow. Success will always ask for more. Let it ask. You get to decide what you give. You get to decide the pace. You get to decide what kind of hard you're willing to carry. Because yes, success makes things harder, but it also makes you bigger. Your life won't feel lighter because there's less. It'll feel lighter because you got stronger. So breathe. This isn't a test you can fail. It's a season you can live through, step by step, choice by choice, boundary by boundary. And when the room feels smaller again, open a window. Remind yourself why you wanted this in the first place. Not to please the crowd, to honor the part of you that was brave enough to try. That part is still here. That part is still guiding you. One more thing. Feel the weight in your hands. Heavy, sure. But heavy doesn't mean wrong. Heavy means real. Hold it. Adjust your grip. Then take the next small step and let the ground beneath you learn your name. Your stomach drops for a second, right after the ringtone cuts and the call goes to voicemail. There's that tiny pause while your brain runs a quick scan of everyone you love. Are they safe? Are they okay? Why does it feel like the room just tilted a degree? Here's the part almost no one admits out loud. The fear of losing the people you love isn't rare or dramatic or a sign you're too sensitive. It's the price of caring. Where there's real attachment, there's a quiet alarm system. It hums in the background, and every now and then it spikes. But here's the reframe. The fear isn't there to punish you. It's there to point you toward what matters. It's not about control, it's about connection. It's not here to make you hoard time. It's here to help you spend it well. Psychologically, when you name the feeling instead of outrunning it, when you say, I'm scared of losing you, even softly, the body loosens a little. Naming creates a sense of safety. It lowers defenses and opens space for honesty and comfort. And when you say it to yourself, it gives the feeling shape, so it's not just a fog. Naming it out loud gives it weight. And with weight comes something you can hold, turn, and gently set down for a moment. Picture a simple night. You think of a parent, a friend, a partner, someone you can't imagine your world without. The old habit is to say nothing. Scroll a bit, sleep. The new habit is tiny and brave. You send a message that says, thinking of you, grateful for you. There's no performance in it, no big speech, just a breadcrumb of love placed where they can find it later. Or take a harder moment. You're sitting in a waiting room with someone who's terrified. The instinct is to fix, to reassure, to reach for a silver lining that doesn't quite fit. The better move is simpler. You say, this is scary. I'm here. When someone feels seen and understood, they soften. They can breathe. If we skip that step and jump to fixes, it can feel dismissive, like we missed their heart and just answered their words. And yes, there are days the fear tries to run the show. You catch yourself counting risks, holding your breath when they're late, replaying worst-case scenes. When that happens, treat fear like a smoke alarm, not a prophecy. It's loud for a reason, but it's pointing to something useful. You love someone deeply. Let it ring long enough to hear the message, then choose what you do with it. What do? You turn fear into gentle action. You say the thing now, you take the photo now. You make the small tradition, tea on Sundays, a silly handshake, a song you always play when you cook together. You practice the compliment in your head, then say it out loud. You keep short accounts, few grudges, fast repairs, quick "I'm sorry," and quicker "I forgive you." And here's the twist. None of that stops time. It doesn't cancel loss. It doesn't grant guarantees, but it does change your days. It changes how you listen. Less autopilot, more presence. It changes how you touch. Longer hugs, the kind that say, "I'm not rushing through this." It changes how you leave rooms. You turn back, you smile, you let them see your eyes. These are small moves, but they stack. They build a life where love gets expressed in the open air, not trapped behind your ribs. If you're worried that saying it out loud will make it worse, try a softer doorway. Try, "I love that you exist." Try, "You make my world steadier." Try, "I'm so glad it's you." Some days the words come easy. Some days you borrow them. Both count. Does the fear disappear? Not really. It becomes honest. It becomes a reminder. It becomes a bell that rings every so often, calling you back to what's sacred right in front of you. So when the phone goes quiet, when your thoughts sprint, when that small alarm wakes up again, pause. Put a hand on your chest. Let it rise and fall. Name it. Then do one thing that moves you closer to love. One message, one touch, one breath taken together. That's how fear loses its grip and turns into guidance. That's how you make this ordinary day feel vividly, stubbornly alive. Love them now. Ever notice how your heart kicks up a notch when someone says, "Quick question," and turns toward you? That split second where your smile holds, but your brain sprints for the exit. You're already rehearsing the worst. They've figured it out. Today's the day you're exposed. That feeling has a name, but let's keep it simple. It's the dread of being seen as less capable than you pretend to be. Not a monster under the bed, more like a shadow that walks beside you. You know it's there. You just hope no one else can see it. So you over-prepare or you hide. You disguise hesitation with extra jargon. You take on more than you can handle because saying no might reveal your limits. Or, on the flip side, you stall because if you don't finish, then nobody can judge the result. It's sneaky. It can look like ambition or caution or perfectionism, but underneath, it's the same thing. Fear. Here's the twist. The fear tries to keep you safe. It whispers, "Don't get caught." It wants you to fit in, to protect your standing, to avoid the sting of judgment. In its own way, it's loyal, but it uses outdated rules like a smoke alarm, so sensitive it screams when you toast bread. Think about where it learned those rules. Maybe from a classroom where being wrong felt like a public trial. Maybe a first boss who made mistakes feel unforgivable. Maybe family where praise was rare and approval felt like a moving target. Or maybe you're just swimming in a world that highlights flawless results and hides the messy drafts. Of course, the fear is loud. It's been trained to be. Let's ground this. Imagine you're wearing a glass mask. It looks perfect and it keeps you safe. But the longer you wear it, the more you sweat behind it. It fogs up. It cracks. Why? Because it's not designed for breathing. It's designed for display. That mask is the performance version of you. Useful sometimes, sure, but it's not where your life can actually happen. What if you didn't have to smash the mask? What if you just slid it up an inch to breathe? You don't need a grand confession. You need small, steady honesty. Micro-truths that let air in. Try this. When someone asks the question you're afraid to fumble, pause. One beat. Breathe low into your belly so your voice rides the air, not the panic. Then try a simple line that's both honest and competent. Good question. Let me think out loud for a second. Or, I have part of the answer and I want to check the rest. Or, here's what I know so far. If we need the exact figure, I'll pull it up. Notice what these lines do. They don't collapse your authority. They contain it. You're not pretending. You're navigating. Another move, create a quiet list. Call it your receipts. Times you solved a problem. Times you learned something new. Times you asked for help and the outcome got better. Keep it in your phone or a notes app. When the fear shouts, show it proof, not your potential, your track record. Even small wins count, especially small wins. They're the bricks that hold the house. And here's a bolder shift. Build a reputation for saying, I don't know, the right way. Not as an ending, but as a bridge. I don't know yet. I'll find out people trust that. They lean in when you're clear about the edges of your knowledge and committed to expanding them. Competence isn't knowing everything. It's knowing how to learn. You might wonder, doesn't that make me look weak? Pause here. In a world full of highlight reels, honesty is uncommon. Uncommon reads as brave. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving with it, without letting it drive. When you model that, you do something bigger than protect yourself. You give permission. The room breathes out. Others show their questions. The work gets better because the performance drops and the problem-solving starts. Let's talk about the inner script, the one that says, I should already be there. Wherever there is, that sentence is a trap. Swap it for I'm on my way. It sounds small, but it changes how you show up. If you're supposed to already be perfect, every gap is an indictment. If you're on your way, every gap is a map. Same reality, different frame. Another tool. Set a floor for failure. Decide in advance what a good enough version looks like for today, not forever. Deliver that. Learn. Iterate. Perfection is a moving target. Progress is a path you can walk. If you're leading others, your honesty shapes the culture. Try phrases like, let's test it, or I need a second pair of eyes, or I might be missing something, what do you see? You keep the bar high and you make it reachable. That's psychological safety, not coddling, clarity. And if you're not leading yet, you're still influencing. The next time fear tells you to hide, make a tiny reveal. One sentence, one clarifying question, one request for detail, one let me verify that for you. That's all. Small acts compound. They become identity. Over time, the story in your head changes from I'm faking it to I'm building it. Here's a quiet truth. The people you're afraid will expose you. Most of them are carrying the same fear, different domain, same pressure. Nobody's watching as closely as you think. They're busy managing their own mask. So what if being exposed isn't the threat? What if it's the doorway? When you let parts of the mask lift, your real face meets the real task. You're still you, still skilled, still learning, still human. And the work gets done by the person you actually are, not by the performance you're exhausted from maintaining. Today, try one small move. Write one receipt. Offer one honest line. Ask one clarifying question. Set one good enough floor. That's it. You don't need to defeat the fear. You need to walk forward with it and let it get bored. Because the goal isn't to prove you're enough by never slipping. The goal is to grow so you can hold more, learn faster, and share credit without fear. You don't have to hide. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to wait. You can breathe now. That small shiver when a new face walks in, fresh energy, quick answers, a smile that says they're ready to climb, and suddenly it feels like someone slid your chair back an inch. You keep talking, you keep nodding, but somewhere inside, a hand is gripping the armrest a little tighter. That's the quiet, persistent hum of replacement anxiety. Younger, smarter, stronger. The words line up like a checklist you're sure you're losing. And the mind does what minds do. It imagines an empty chair with your name scraped off. It imagines being thanked once, then forgotten. Is it really about them? Or is it about the story you've been telling yourself about what makes you valuable? Here's the truth. Most of us don't say out loud. We don't fear someone else. We fear the possibility that what we bring is generic, that anyone with a faster processor or a later bedtime could do it. That fear presses on the most tender word we carry, worth. So let's reframe the whole thing. Replaceable is about sameness. Your antidote is specificity. Not just what you do, but how you do it. Who you serve, the way your presence changes the room. Psychologically, when you name the fear and anchor it to a clear identity, your nervous system stops scanning for threat and starts scanning for agency. Small levers you can actually move. Take a simple scene. A new hire joins your team. They type faster, present slicker, and throw around terms you haven't even Googled yet. Your stomach dips. Now, two paths appear. One is defense, hoard knowledge, nitpick, play small politics. The other is design, map what only you see. You understand why the project failed 3 years ago. You know which partner answers on a Sunday afternoon. You've built trust with the person who never speaks in meetings but sees the pitfalls before anyone else. Share that context. Teach the traps. Connect the dots. Not speed, but stewardship. Not status, but systems. Not louder, but deeper. When you shift from proving yourself to improving the whole, your value stops being a race and starts being a foundation. And foundations don't get replaced. They get built upon. And here's the twist. Your brain likes novelty, but leadership loves reliability. The traits that look unbeatable at first glance, like sheer pace or raw charisma, tend to fade when the terrain gets messy. What endures is pattern recognition, patience under pressure, and the quiet courage to make others better. If you can say, when they win, I made it possible, you're playing a longer game. Psychologically, that kind of contribution creates safety and trust, which lifts performance across the board. Another quick picture. You've been the go-to in your friend group or your family, the organizer, the fixer. Then someone new shows up, and suddenly they're the one everyone texts first. It stings. But watch what happens when you don't compete for attention. You create it. You invite the new person in. You point out their strengths in front of others. You become the person who turns talent into a team. That move flips the script from comparison to connection, and the room never forgets who made the room feel bigger. So when that fear whispers, they're coming for your spot, answer with something truer. I'm building a space only I can build, and I'm making room for more. Notice how your shoulders drop when you say that. Notice how your gaze lifts. You stop guarding, start growing. You stop asking, how do I keep up? And start asking, how do I level this up for everyone? Ask yourself right now, what's the specific value you create that doesn't vanish when someone quicker walks in? Name it. Protect it by sharing it. Expand it by teaching it. And this is the brave part. Evolve it by learning from the person you used to fear. Because the real risk isn't being replaced. It's replacing your curiosity with panic, your generosity with competition, your voice with silence. Be the person who raises the floor. Be the person who widens the door. Be the person others point to and say, they made this possible. That's not a role you win once. It's a practice you live every day. And when you live that way, the fear of being replaced starts to lose its teeth. It becomes background noise. You're too busy making something that lasts, too busy turning potential into momentum, too busy becoming the kind of presence that makes other people braver. That kind of presence is hard to measure, but it's even harder to replace. Hear that soft click when you walk past a closed door, the one you chose not to open? That's not the latch. That's your future self, tapping from the other side, asking, hey, are we really going to leave this shut forever? Regret isn't loud at first. It starts as a whisper in the margins. You skip the call. You save the message as a draft. You say you'll try when things calm down. Then weeks go by and the whisper grows teeth. It shows up in the shower, in the car, in that quiet hour before sleep, when your brain replays the parts you didn't dare improvise. You feel it like a soft bruise you keep bumping. And here's the strange truth. The fear of regret isn't just sadness waiting in the future. It's a compass you're holding right now, pointing toward the choices that matter. But when you treat that compass like a siren, when you stare at it and freeze, you drift anyway. You end up with the one thing you are trying to avoid. Picture a small museum you carry inside, the Museum of Almosts. On the first shelf, the trip you didn't take because the timing was off. Next to it, the apology you never sent, still folded, still unsent, still heavy. In the corner, a painting that's just blank canvas because you kept waiting to be good enough before you bought the brushes. Every exhibit comes with a plaque that reads, "Maybe later." This is how regret ages. It doesn't fade. It curdles. So what do you do with that fear the moment it pulls your hand back? Ask a simple question and give it space to land. If a future me could walk into this room, older, softer, a little wiser, what would they beg me to do? Would they tell you to protect your pride or to risk it for the chance to love? Would they tell you to wait for the perfect moment or to make a messy beginning today? Would they tell you to keep the peace by staying silent or to speak and finally be at peace? You don't have to know the perfect answer. You just have to listen for the pull. Regret has a physical feel. It's a tightness, a held breath, a loop you keep replaying. And courage has a feel too. It's a warm worry that somehow makes you stand taller. It's the fear that comes with meaning, not the fear that comes with hiding. Try this for 30 seconds. Close your eyes and imagine you did nothing. You stayed, you postponed, you stayed quiet. Let that reality settle, not in your head, but in your chest. How does it feel? Now flip it. Imagine you tried and stumbled. You sent the message and it was awkward. You started the project and it was messy. You told the truth and your voice shook. Feel that too. Which ache feels more honest? Here's the twist most people miss. Regret is usually loud about the risks you took that went wrong, but over time, it's the risks you never took that echo longest, the dates you never went on, the cities you never lived in, the kindness you didn't offer when it could have changed everything, the courage you left on the table. We tell ourselves stories to stay safe. I'll do it when I'm ready. I'll wait until I have more time. I'll start after the next milestone. But the future is a moving target, and it loves to slide just out of reach. The door you keep walking past doesn't stay the same. It grows heavier. Every later makes the hinges rust, so let's make the door lighter. Shrink the decision. Not the dream, the decision. If the whole thing is too much, take one honest step, not 20. 1. Send the text that says, "Can we talk?" Watch the tutorial and make one terrible draft. Ask for 15 minutes on the calendar instead of the entire pitch. Say, "I'm sorry for my part." Say, "I miss you." Say, "I want this." Will you be awkward? Probably. Will you be perfect? No. But perfection is just a costume regret wears to keep you from leaving the house. The point isn't to be flawless. The point is to be alive, to be in motion, to give your future self better memories than a row of sealed doors. And when your brain throws up every what if it fails? What if they laugh? What if this hurts? Offer it one more what if. What if this becomes the story you're proud to tell? There's a quiet power in choosing the kind of pain you can live with. The pain of trying and healing, or the pain of never knowing. One stretches you, one shrinks you. Only one turns fear into a map. Years from now, you'll think back to this moment. Maybe you'll remember the colour of the room, the angle of the light, that strange feeling in your throat when you almost said yes. You'll remember if you reached for the handle. You'll remember if the door opened. So take a breath. Put your hand where the fear is. Feel the shape of it. Name it. Regret. Then ask it to walk beside you, not ahead of you. Let it point, but not drive. Because the only way to quiet the museum of almosts is to build a life of already. And that starts with one small, brave, imperfect choice. Today. It sneaks up in the most ordinary ways. Your favourite hoodie looks the same, but it fits your shoulders differently. A photo pops up from a few years ago, and your first thought is, "That was last weekend, wasn't it?" A song from school comes on, and your mouth knows every word, while your voice belongs to someone wiser than the kid who learned it. That's when the worry whispers, soft but sharp. When did the years start sprinting? And why didn't I feel the wind? Is it the mirror you're afraid of? Or the mystery of missing time? Where did it all go? Here's a thought that might loosen the knot. Maybe time didn't disappear. Maybe you spent it on purpose, even if you didn't always realize it. You traded hours for healing, for skills, for people who changed your voice and softened your edges. Not lost, invested. And here's the twist. What you invest rarely looks flashy in the moment. It looks like doing the dishes, attending the practice, showing up to the quiet Tuesday when you could have scrolled past your life. I know the fear says otherwise. It points to the laugh lines, the tired mornings, the plans that didn't happen. It tells a story about loss, not growth. Psychologically, that makes sense. Our brains are good at spotting change and treating it like a threat. So they highlight what's slipping and blur what's strengthening. Naming that pattern helps you see it. And when you see it, you can choose a different lens. Try this small reframe the next time the clock gets loud. Instead of asking, "Where did the time go?" ask, "What did the time become?" Not less of you, but more of you. Not running out, but widening out. That shift matters because it moves you from keeping score of what's gone to noticing what's grown, a habit that changes how you carry the next season. Let's make it concrete. You glance at a photo of you on a road trip. Windows down, hair wild, no plan. Then you look at your calendar and it's full of logistics. The fear sneers. See, you traded adventure for errands. So pause, really look. That photo taught you you love open roads. The calendar shows you learned how to build one inside a busy week. You still chase skies. You just also know how to get the oil changed before you drive out to find them. That's not less aliveness. It's steadier aliveness. This is what the brain misses when it's only scanning for loss. The practice is to say it out loud so your nervous system hears it and relaxes a bit more each time. Here's another. You used to meet a friend at midnight for fries and big dreams. Now you text them at 9 and both fall asleep. The fear calls it boring. But notice this. There's a deeper comfort between you now. Back then, you had to talk for hours to feel close. Today, one made it home safe means everything. That didn't vanish. It matured. It's not spontaneity or stability. It's spontaneity and stability. Not just heat, but warmth that lasts. And your body? It's telling you about time, sure, but it's also telling you about wisdom. You still want to be strong. Maybe now that looks like training with patience. Listening to your knees, celebrating the weeks you showed up instead of the single day you hit a personal best. That's not settling, that's mastery. The difference between sprinting and pacing isn't smaller dreams, it's finishing more of them. When the fear gets loud, give yourself a simple ritual. Name the season, name what's growing, name who helped, then name one tiny, honest way you'll honor this exact stage. A long walk without your phone. Calling the person you've been meaning to call. Putting your keys in the same bowl so you stop losing them and use that little bit of saved energy on something that makes you feel alive. Small acts, repeated, become story. And stories are how we feel our lives while we're inside them. Psychologically, that's how we convert vague anxiety into direction, by turning a feeling into a next step and letting that next step build safety and momentum over time. So, are you really afraid of getting older? Or are you afraid of missing your own life while it's happening? Here's the kinder truth. You haven't missed it. You're in it right now. You didn't misplace the years. You used them to become someone who can hold more love, more nuance, more you. That's worth honoring. That's worth trusting. And if there's something you still want, learn the language, start the garden, write the book. You're not late. You're exactly on time for the person you've become, to do the thing you couldn't have done any earlier. There's a door you walk past every day and you never touch the handle. Not because what's behind it is a monster, but because the label on the door says nothing, just blank. Your brain wants a sign, an arrow, a guarantee. And when it doesn't get one, it whispers, careful. The unknown does that. It hums in the background like a low alarm. It tells you that staying put is safer, even when staying put is a slow kind of stuck. But here's the twist. The fear of the unknown isn't proof you're weak. It's proof you're alive. It's your brain asking for a plan. So give it one. Not a 5-year plan carved in stone. A tiny plan carved in pencil. Think about the last time you considered a change. New job, new city, new relationship, or just speaking up in a room where you usually stay quiet. The moment you imagined stepping forward, your mind ran a horror trailer. What if you fail? What if you embarrass yourself? What if people see you stumble? Pause there. Breathe. Name the feeling out loud, even if it's just a whisper. I'm scared, and I'm still in. Naming emotion takes the heat out of it. It's like turning a blaring siren into a ring you can actually pick up. Psychologically, calling a feeling by its name lowers the emotional spike and gives you back a little control. Now try this. Shrink the unknown until it fits in your hand. Don't promise yourself a flawless outcome. Promise yourself a small action. One email, one question, one honest conversation that starts with, "Can I run something by you?" Clarity loves movement. And here's why that matters. Creating a small, clear next step gives your mind a pocket of certainty. It creates safety, lowers defenses, and opens space for better choices. It sounds simple, but it's not easy. Because the story you've been told is that brave people don't feel scared. The truth is braver and kinder. It's not about making fear disappear. It's about learning to move with it. Picture this. You're hovering over a big decision. Your friend asks, "So, are you doing it?" You shrug. "I don't know." "What if it's the wrong move?" Instead of forcing certainty, you make a smaller wager. You schedule one informational call, you visit the neighborhood, you ask the person for coffee, not a lifetime commitment. Each small step isn't the whole map, but each step redraws the map. And when your chest tightens again, and because it will, ask gentler questions. What do I know for sure right now? What's the smallest reversible step I can take today? If this goes sideways, can I recover? Notice how different that feels from demanding perfection. One opens a door, the other locks it. The unknown feeds on silence. It grows in the dark. So speak to it. Say, "I see you." Fear wants to rush you or freeze you. Two extremes that look different but feel the same. Instead, slow the moment down. Take one measured breath. Then take one measurable action. Breath, then step. Let's bring it closer. You're waiting on test results, watching your phone like it owes you answers. Your thoughts spin, and suddenly the future is a tornado. If you can, ground yourself in 3 small anchors. Say one fear out loud. "I'm scared of what I can't control." Name one thing you can control. "I can rest, hydrate, call a friend." Take one tiny action. "I'll set a check-in time later and put the phone away for now." It's not dramatic. It's not glamorous, but it's power. The quiet kind. Or maybe you're standing at the edge of a conversation you've avoided for months. You practice the opening line and your voice shakes anyway. It's okay. Say the line. Let your voice shake. Courage isn't a feeling. It's a behavior you can do shaky. The unknown shrinks every time you choose a value over a mood. That's not denial. It's direction. And yes, there's risk. There's always risk. But notice this. When you step, you don't just learn about the outcome. You learn about you. You learn that you can be scared and still kind, still honest, still committed to what matters. You'll collect data that no amount of thinking could ever give you, the kind you only earn by moving. Ask yourself softly, what if the worst doesn't happen? What if the best doesn't either? What if it's something in the middle? And I can handle that, because often it is, and you can. Come back to that door, hand on the handle. It's okay if your heart is loud. Crack it open. Let a sliver of light in. Listen. Take one step through, even if it's small enough to laugh at. Then another. The floor will meet your feet. The hallway will appear as you walk. The map, it turns out, is drawn by your footsteps. The fear of the unknown doesn't mean stop. It means step. With your eyes open, your breath steady, and your courage in motion. The moment you realize the wheel isn't in your hands anymore, your stomach drops, your breath tightens, and the world feels louder than it did a second ago. It's like standing on a moving walkway that won't stop, even when you want off. That's the fear of being powerless. And it's one of those fears we tuck behind a smile and pretend isn't there. You can feel it in small, silent ways. The late-night email that changes tomorrow. The phone call with news you didn't choose. The conversation that goes sideways while you're trying to keep it calm. You're watching the scene unfold, and somehow you're in it and outside it at the same time. The thought is sharp and simple. I don't have control. Here's the thing most people won't say out loud. That's not weakness. That's a true read on reality. Life is a river, not a remote control. Sometimes you steer, sometimes you float. So what do you do when the river is rapid and you can't find the oars? First, name it. Say, this is fear. Say, I feel powerless. Putting words on it is like turning on a light in a dark room. You still see the mess, but you're not stumbling over it. When you name it, you can hold it. When you hold it, you can choose how to meet it. Breathe slowly, once, then again. In for a count you can actually finish. Out a little longer than you took in. Feel where your feet meet the floor. That's not a trick. That's your body remembering you're here, not trapped in the movie in your head. Fear is a siren. Your breath is the quiet hand that lowers the volume. Now, ask yourself a gentle question. What part of this is mine to carry? Sometimes the answer is not much. Sometimes it's one small piece. You might not control outcomes, but you do shape your stance. Your stance is the tone of your voice. It's the next sentence you choose. It's the decision to wait one more beat before reacting. Here's the twist most people miss. Control isn't a switch you flip. It's a range. On one end is everything you can't touch. On the other end are tiny levers you can move. Tiny doesn't mean trivial. Tiny is powerful. Tiny builds momentum. Choose the email you can send. Choose the boundary you can say out loud. Choose the question you can ask that invites clarity. Choose to hydrate, to stretch your shoulders, to step outside for fresh air. Those choices aren't distractions. They're anchors. Powerlessness whispers all or nothing. If you can't change it all, it says, you can't change anything. That's a lie. When a door won't open, try the hinge. When the hinge won't budge, check the window. When the window is stuck, slide the lock. Small, specific, present. That's where your influence lives. You might be thinking, but what if the thing is huge? A diagnosis, a loss, a plan collapsing. What then? Then you let the wave pass through you, not over you. You let yourself grieve the lost illusion of control. It's not silly. It's human. The illusion kept you feeling safe. And now that it's cracked, you get to build something sturdier in its place. Responsibility without blame, acceptance without apathy, surrender without giving up. Here's a line you can use when your mind races. I don't control everything, but I do control who I am while this happens. Say it softly. Say it again. Who do you want to be in the middle of the mess? Calm, kind, curious, courageous. Pick one word, hold it like a compass, and act from there. Not perfectly, just consistently enough that you can recognize yourself. Talk to someone you trust, not to fix it, just to be with you inside it. Fear shrinks when it's spoken. Ask for help in simple language. Can you sit with me? Can you listen while I sort my thoughts? Can you help me pick the first next step? Power shared is not power lost. It's power multiplied. Watch the stories your fear tells. It hates uncertainty, so it writes endings fast. Notice those endings, then ask, what else could be true? Maybe the meeting goes badly, and you learn what to do differently. Maybe the delay creates space for an opportunity you couldn't see yet. Maybe it's just hard, and you stay kind anyway. That's a version of control too. Choosing the story you feed. And remember this, because it matters. You're allowed to pause. You're allowed to say, I need a moment. You're allowed to return to the same problem tomorrow with a clearer head. The world pressures urgency. Wisdom loves a breath. Give yourself permission to slow the scene, even when you can't stop the plot. When you feel powerless, check your body, your boundaries, and your beliefs. Your body needs your steady breath and a place to stand. Your boundaries need a simple sentence that protects your energy. Your beliefs need an update from control to influence, from certainty to presence, from winning to staying true. Is it scary to admit you're not in control? Yes. Does admitting it make you smaller? No. It makes you honest. And honesty is a doorway to strength. The river will keep moving. Some days you'll row, and it'll feel easy. Some days you'll drift, and it'll feel strange. On the hardest days, remember the small levers, the steady breath, the compass word. Remember that power isn't dominance, it's direction. It's the quiet decision to face what's happening and remain yourself inside it. You don't have to control the scene to change your part in it. And that's where your power lives, even when everything else is moving. Your hands shake when you care. Isn't that wild? The more your heart is in it, the more your voice trembles, your breath gets tight, your legs feel like they're made of glass. You're giving everything you've got, and that's exactly when the fear shows up, whispering, "Don't let them see you struggle. Don't let them see you small. Don't look weak." What if I told you that whisper is not the truth, it's a habit? There's that moment we've all felt. You're pushing through, trying your hardest, and you can feel eyes on you. At the gym, when you add a little more weight than you're sure you can handle. At work, when you raise your hand with an idea that isn't fully ironed out yet. At home, when you admit you need a breather, or you need help, or you don't know what to do next. The fear flicks on like a motion sensor light. It floods your body. It tells you effort equals exposure, and exposure equals danger. But notice this, the fear isn't about failing. It's about being seen failing. There's a difference. So let's talk to that fear, you and me. Let's call it what it is. A protector. Overzealous, clumsy, sometimes loud, but a protector. It learned, somewhere along the way, that the safest thing to be is invulnerable. Maybe you were praised for looking tough. Maybe you were punished for showing softness. Maybe you were the strong one in your family, the steady one, the glue. So the very idea of wobbling feels like betrayal. Here's the twist. Strength without softness isn't strength. It's armor. And armor makes you heavy. When you march into every moment hidden behind metal, you can't move freely. You can't breathe deeply. You can't ask for what you actually need. You end up surviving the day instead of living it. What actually happens when you look a little shaky? When your voice breaks as you say, "I'm trying, but I'm scared"? Watch closely. People lean in. Not everyone, but the ones who matter. The ones who are capable of caring. They lean in. They recognize effort. They know the tremble. They've felt it themselves. Your visible strain becomes a bridge, not a billboard of failure. Let's make it practical. The next time that chokehold of fear starts to climb your throat, pause. Tiny pause. Feel your feet. Feel the floor. Say quietly, in your head, "I'm safe to care." Not, "I'm safe to be perfect." Not, "I'm safe if I crush it." I'm safe to care. Let the words unclench your jaw. Now ask yourself a sharper question. What am I actually afraid they'll think? That I'm foolish? That I'm not talented? That I'm too emotional? Say the worst thought out loud to yourself. Hear it, then answer it with a clean sentence. I'm not here to look invincible. I'm here to grow. It sounds simple. It works because it turns the lights on in the room, where fear likes to hide. Here's another move, so small but powerful. Pick one micro gesture of honesty. 1. If you're in a meeting and you lose your train of thought, own it. Say, "Give me a second. I want to land this clearly." If you're lifting and your form slips, rack the weight, reset, try again with a nod that says, "I'm not done yet." If you're overwhelmed at home, tell someone, "I need 5 minutes to reset so I can show up better." These tiny acts teach your nervous system a new story. Being seen trying isn't a threat. It's proof of your courage. Ask yourself this gently. When did I decide that ease is respectable, but effort is embarrassing? And this, whose voice is that, really? Because for a lot of us, the voice isn't ours. It's a teacher who mocked, a coach who shamed, a parent who feared their own fragility and passed it along like a family heirloom. You don't have to keep it. You can thank it for trying to protect you and then speak louder than it. You can choose a new voice, kind, firm, clear. It says sweat is allowed here. It says tremble and keep going. And it says needing help is human, not disqualifying. Let's redefine weak. Weak isn't crying. Weak isn't asking for help. Weak isn't saying, I don't know yet, or I'm learning, or wow, this is hard. Weak is pretending you don't feel anything until the pretending breaks you. Weak is letting the fear of judgment outrank the truth of your effort. Weak is silence where your courage could be. You're allowed to be seen working for it. You're allowed to try so hard you look a little undone. You're allowed to ask for a spotter, a second opinion, a hand to hold. You're allowed to fail publicly and keep your dignity, because dignity doesn't come from spotless performance. It comes from honest presence. There's a freedom on the other side of this fear. It's not loud. It won't announce itself with fireworks. It's quieter. It feels like taking a deeper breath before you speak. It feels like looking someone in the eye while your hands shake and not apologizing for the shake. It feels like getting back up without making a speech about why you fell. And yes, some people will confuse your openness for weakness. Let them. They're watching from behind their own armor, and armor distorts everything. You're not here to win every opinion. You're here to live aligned, to care openly, to try without hiding. Say this with me, just once, like you mean it. I'm allowed to be seen trying. Let the words land in your chest. Let your shoulders drop. That's what real strength feels like. Not rigid, not brittle, alive. So the next time the stakes rise and your breath shortens and that whisper hisses, don't look weak. Smile to yourself. Whisper back, watch me. Watch me care. Watch me shake. Watch me learn. Watch me ask. Watch me stand again. That's not weakness. That's the shape of courage. That's the sound of a life actually being lived. Quick question. If your title vanished from your email signature overnight, who would you be at breakfast? Not at the office, not on a stage, not in a meeting, at breakfast. That's where this fear shows up first, quietly before the coffee lands. The fear of losing status, the thing you worked years to build. It's not just about money or perks. It's about being seen, being respected, being invited into the room where decisions get made. Status can feel like a glass elevator that only goes up. You love the view, you love the doors that open, and you start believing the elevator is you. But it's not. It's just the ride. What if the ride stops? You've sacrificed weekends. You've swallowed your opinions when it mattered. You've held yourself to a higher standard because you had to. So, of course, the thought of slipping down a rung feels like falling off the map. The brain won't say, I'm afraid of losing a title. It says, I'm afraid of being less. I'm afraid of being ignored. I'm afraid my tribe will move on without me. Here's the part we don't like to admit. Status is a promise made by other people. They give it, they can take it. Worth is different. Worth is a promise you keep with yourself, and no one else gets a vote. When the fear spikes, it whispers some nasty stories. It says, if you lose the role, your phone will stop buzzing. If you lose the audience, your ideas won't matter. If you lose the spotlight, you'll disappear. Breathe. That's your nervous system trying to keep you in the familiar, even if the familiar is a cage with a view. Let's untangle the knots. Start with identity. Build it on verbs, not nouns. Not, I am a vice president, but I lead, I build, I teach, I solve. Verbs travel. They stay with you when nameplates change. And here's the twist. When you talk to yourself in verbs, you act faster and recover faster. If the stage lights go dark, the verbs are still in your pocket. Next, diversify where you're valued. Spread it out like roots. If all your roots are in one pot, one company, one industry, one audience, the first drought hurts everything. Grow roots in your craft, your friendships, your family, your health, your curiosity. When one pillar cracks, the house still stands. Practice small intentional drops in status. Sounds strange, but it's powerful. Let someone else take the credit once in a while. Volunteer to do the unglamorous part of the project. Wear the simple outfit to the fancy meeting. Watch what happens inside you. At first, your ego shouts, then it quiets. That's you building range. That's you proving you won't shatter if the applause is lighter. Keep a private scoreboard. Pick the 3 things that matter most. Maybe courage, usefulness, and growth. At the end of the day, ask, did I move those? Not, did I look impressive? Not, did I trend? Just, did I live my values? Quiet metrics build loud confidence. Serve where the spotlight doesn't reach. Mentor someone with no power. Make the thoughtful intro. Send the thank you note no one expects. You'll feel it. A different kind of status forms. It's the kind where people trust your name even when it's not on the door. That kind lasts. Name your vanity anchors. The number of followers, the corner office, the award on the shelf. Don't throw them away. Just call them what they are. Anchors. Helpful in a storm. Dangerous when you need to sail. Loosen them when it's time to move. Plan the fall before you're pushed. Not because you're negative, because you're brave. If the role ends, what routines would you keep on day 1? Who would you call? What story would you tell yourself in the mirror? Write it down. Fear melts when there's a map. And keep learning. Beginners have no status to lose, which is why beginners are free. Take a class that makes you clumsy again. Ask questions that reveal what you don't know. You'll find a strange relief hiding in that humility. It says, if I can be new here, I can be new anywhere. Now, let's address the core question your fear is asking. If they stop clapping, are you still enough? Pause there. If you felt a flinch, good. That flinch points to the door. Walk toward it, because the truth is, the applause was never a reliable measure. It's weather, not climate. Weather changes. Climate is who you are when no one's looking. You worked hard for your status. Keep what's noble in it, the standards, the grit, the way you lift others. Let go of the brittle parts, the comparisons, the constant proving, the need to be seen as the one. You don't need to be the one, you need to be the person who does the work that matters. Imagine this. The title disappears, the stage goes quiet, the invitation's slow. You wake up, make coffee, and because your identity lives in verbs, you still lead, still build, still teach, still solve. People notice that kind of steadiness. Opportunities find it. The right tribe recognizes it. So ask yourself gently, right now, what would you risk if you weren't protecting your status? What would you create if you weren't curating your image? Who would you be if you were brave enough to be ordinary in public and exceptional in private? Here's my bet. You'd be lighter, you'd be quicker, you'd be honest, and you'd be free in a way that status can't buy. Because freedom doesn't ask permission. It shows up when you choose your worth over your rank. The elevator may stop. Let it. Step out. Take the stairs. Look around. The view might be lower, the air might be different, but your legs get stronger with every step, and the strength is yours to keep. Ever looked up from your screen and felt that quiet ache like you've been paying rent in someone else's life? The fear of wasting time sneaks in like that. Not loud, not dramatic. It's the soft hum under your day. You do the tasks, you answer the messages, you keep the train moving, and then, late at night, you wonder why the destination doesn't feel like yours. What if you spend years on things that never really mattered? Sit with that for a second. Maybe you chased the safe job because it made sense, because it kept the lights on, because it made your parents exhale. Maybe you stayed in a relationship because leaving would mean admitting the last few years weren't leading anywhere. Maybe you stacked your days with commitments that looked good on paper, but never fit your soul. And now there's this whisper, this steady pulse of fear. What if I built a beautiful cage? Here's the truth you already know in your bones. Time is not a bank account. You can't withdraw what's spent. You can only choose how you spend the next breath, the next morning, the next year. The past isn't a contract. It's a classroom. And every class ends. But fear tells a different story. Fear says, if you change now, you're admitting you were wrong. Fear says you'll fall behind. Fear says you've come too far to turn around. Behind what? Who's keeping score? That scoreboard in your mind. It belongs to a crowd that isn't even watching you. Most people are busy keeping their own balance, trying not to drown in the same questions. Your life isn't a race. It's a path through a forest. If you realize you're on the wrong trail, the bravest move isn't to run faster. It's to stop, look up, and choose a new direction. So how do you know what matters? Start with your calendar. It tells the truth you might be afraid to say out loud. If someone who loved you read last month, would they see your values or your obligations? The answer stings, I know. Let it. That sting is a compass. Try this. Pick one day this week and do a quiet audit. Notice what gives you energy and what drains it. Not what looks impressive. Not what people clap for. What makes your body feel alive? What leaves you feeling small and grey? Track the feeling, not the checklist. The body doesn't lie. Then ask a gentler question. If I wasn't already doing this, would I start today? Let that question sweep across your job, your projects, your habits, even your friendships. Anything that feels like an honest no deserves a conversation. With yourself, with someone involved, with your future. I get it. There's a heavy lure in the years you've already spent. It's the sunk cost pull. You've carried this suitcase for so long that setting it down feels like failure. But what if you reframe it? Those years weren't wasted. They taught you how to recognize the wrong room. They sharpened your taste. They gave you patterns and skills and grit. That knowledge is a gift, not a chain. You can thank it and leave. Maybe you don't need to burn your life down. Maybe you need an experiment, a small bet, one morning a week, devoted to building the thing that won't leave you alone. One honest conversation you've been postponing. One boundary that protects your focus for 1 hour. If the choice feels too big, shrink the choice. Move one stone, then another. But what if people judge me? They might. And here's the twist. The people who matter will be relieved to meet the real you. They'll adjust. Many will cheer. The ones who don't, well, you're not building your life for their approval anyway. A life designed around applause will always leave you thirsty. Listen, there's no perfect timing. Waiting for permission is how fear wins. Waiting for certainty is how the years blur. Courage doesn't mean you're not scared. Courage means the voice that says, "This matters," gets the microphone. Picture your 80-year-old self for a moment. They're sitting with you at a quiet table. They slide a hand over yours and ask one question. Are we spending our days on what we would be proud to remember? Not grand moments, not headlines, the ordinary Tuesdays, the small habits, the average weeks. Would we be proud? If the answer is no, you're not broken. You're awake. That's a start. Here's something simple. Make a keep list and a release list. Keep what feeds you. Release what starves you. Keep the people who make you kinder. Release the roles that turn you brittle. Keep the work that challenges you in a good way. Release the cycles that numb you. It doesn't all change in one sweep, but it starts when you draw a line and say, this is who I am, and this is what I'm building. You don't owe the past a version of you that no longer fits. You owe the future your attention. There will be fear. Of course there will. Wasting time is a heavy phrase, but the only way to make it heavier is to let it decide for you. Trade the fear of wasting time for the practice of honouring time. That looks like honest choices, faithful routines, brave pauses, and small, stubborn acts of alignment. It looks like ending something with grace when it no longer serves the person you're becoming. One last question, and answer it softly. If you were starting today from zero, no expectations, no audience, no pressure, what would you choose? Now begin, not by abandoning everything, but by making one careful turn toward that answer. Feel the click when your day and your values finally meet. That click is the sound of your life getting lighter. That's not waste, that's worth. That tiny ache under your ribs when a room goes quiet, ever notice how it suddenly speaks for everyone? It says they're laughing about you. It says they saw right through you. It says you're not liked. And just like that, a silence turns into a verdict. Here's what's wild. The moment you suspect someone secretly dislikes you, your brain starts building a case. It scans for every shrug, every delayed reply, every neutral face, and stitches them together into a story. Not because you're dramatic, but because your mind is built to fill gaps fast, especially with threat. Psychologically, it's a safety system, but it can mistake uncertainty for danger and guess wrong confidently. So let's try a gentler move. Instead of proving you're disliked, notice the story your mind is writing and name it. Then ask yourself a better question. What else could be true? That simple pause loosens the knot. It turns a fixed judgment into a curious check-in, which is where real clarity starts. Picture this. You share an idea in a meeting. One person looks down, another smirks, and a third changes the subject. On the walk back, that ache gets loud. You replay every word you said. You decide they thought you were pushy, or naive, or just wrong. Later, when you bump into one of them in the hallway, you try something small and brave. Hey, I noticed I jumped in fast earlier. How did that land? They let out a breath. Honestly, I was distracted by a deadline. Your idea's solid. Can we talk after lunch? The story shifts, not because you begged to be liked, but because you traded mind reading for a clear, respectful question. That's the quiet power. Curiosity over certainty. Here's the reframe. Your job isn't to be universally liked. Your job is to be honest, kind, and clear, and let people have their real reactions. Trying to control every impression is a trap. Choosing alignment over approval is freedom. When you lead with your values, not everyone will choose you, but the ones who do actually see you. And there's another twist. Fear of being disliked often makes you less likable. It tightens your voice, puts a glaze over your eyes, makes you agree too fast or talk too long. People feel the strain. When you stop auditioning, your presence relaxes, you listen more, you joke, you breathe. Ironically, you become easier to be around. Psychologically, that shift creates safety. When people feel safe, they open up and connection has room to grow. Try a few tiny moves. When the ache shows up, say to yourself, "This is fear, not fact." Give it a breath. Ask one clarifying question instead of chasing 10 explanations. If the vibe still feels off, own your slice. If I came on strong, that wasn't my intent. And leave the rest where it belongs. You're taking responsibility for your part without grabbing someone else's. That's emotional maturity, not people-pleasing. And what if someone truly doesn't like you? Then let that truth do its clean work. Not everyone is your audience. Not every room is your room. You'll survive their opinion, and you might even feel lighter when you stop carrying it, because beneath the fear is something braver, the decision to be yourself on purpose. So when the whisper starts, "They don't like you," answer back softly. Maybe, maybe not. Either way, you're choosing clarity over guessing, values over performance, connection over control. The ache will still visit sometimes. That's human, but it won't drive anymore. And that's the quiet courage that turns being disliked from a threat into a filter, a way of finding your people and letting them find you. Your heart flinches like it learned to dodge glass. You walk into love already scanning for sharp edges, rehearsing exits, bargaining with a voice that swears it's keeping you safe. And every time something real begins, that voice whispers the same promise, the same warning, the same plan to leave before you're left. Sound familiar? The fear of failure in relationships doesn't show up with big neon signs. It shows up in tiny decisions that look reasonable. You pick the person who doesn't call back because it's easier to fail where you expect to fail. You crack a joke when it gets intimate, just to break the tension, then later wonder why they stopped opening up. You start a fight to prove they'll leave, and they do. Or you ghost before they can, telling yourself it was never that deep. Underneath all of it is this belief: if love ends, it means something awful about you. It means you weren't enough, or you were too much, or you made the same mistake again and again and again. So the brain builds a fortress called control. If you can predict it, you can prevent it. If you can keep your heart 2 steps back, you won't be ambushed by pain. But here's the twist. That fortress keeps out the storm, and it also keeps out the sun. What if the pattern isn't that you keep failing? What if the pattern is you keep choosing what feels safe because it's familiar, even if familiar has always hurt? We repeat what we survived. The body loves known pain more than unknown possibility. That's not weakness. That's wiring. It's a nervous system trying to protect what it loves most. So let's slow the story down. When you want to speed up, pause. Notice the first flicker that says, "This is going too well." Feel how your shoulders tighten, how your chest squeezes, how your mind jumps ahead to the worst scene in the movie. Name it out loud, even if only to yourself. I'm scared of failing. I'm scared of being seen. I'm scared that if I show who I am, they'll run. What happens when you tell the truth before the catastrophe? Courage doesn't always look like a grand gesture. Sometimes it sounds like a small sentence delivered softly. I'm getting in my head. I like you, and that makes me nervous. Could we slow down and check in? That's not weakness. That's leadership. You're setting the pace for honest connection. And if you're thinking, what if I say that and they still leave? Then you've learned something precious without abandoning yourself. That's not failure. That's a boundary doing its job. The secret no one mentions is that relationships don't fail because conflict shows up. They fail because repair never does. You can be imperfect and still be lovable. You can misread a text, get triggered, say the wrong thing, then circle back and make it right. That loop, conflict, repair, return, is the heartbeat of real intimacy. If your measure of success is never arguing, you'll always fail. If your measure is, we can come back to each other, then you've already started winning. So how do you shift the pattern when your history is louder than your hope? Start ridiculously small. Choose one move where you usually shut down and stay just one breath longer. When you're tempted to test them, ask instead. When you're about to disappear, send the honest message. When you want to collect proof they'll hurt you, collect proof they're trying. And when they do try, let it count. Pick people who make it easy to be imperfect. That's a different kind of attraction. Less fireworks, more steady warmth. It often feels boring at first because intensity and inconsistency trained your body to equate chaos with chemistry. If you're not sure whether it's chemistry or chaos, ask your sleep. If the connection helps you sleep deeper, you're probably safe. If you're wide awake, refreshing the thread, bargaining with the next reply, that's your nervous system running the show. Be clear with yourself about what you're building. You're not trying to pass a test. You're practicing being seen. That means you'll reveal values, boundaries, needs. You'll say yes and you'll say no. You'll let them know how to love you well, and you'll listen when they tell you the same. If they can't meet you there, it's not proof that you're unlovable. It's proof you're not compatible. Different verdict entirely. Here's something radical. Let failure do a little work for you. Let it be feedback, not a sentence. Let it teach you where you rushed, where you hid, where you settled, where you demanded perfection from a human who couldn't give it. When you can bless the lesson, you don't have to relive it. And yes, there will be days you backslide, days you reread old messages, replay old fights, re-enter old rooms where you swore you'd never go. On those days, don't add shame to the stack. Shame doesn't make you safe. It just makes you small. Offer yourself what you've been chasing from someone else. Patience, kindness, a steady tone that says, you're learning. Try again. What if your new definition of success was simply this? I stayed honest. I stayed kind. I stayed present. I chose a tiny bit more courage than yesterday. With that, even an ending can be a win, because you didn't abandon your heart to avoid heartbreak. You don't have to slam the door on fear to love well. You just have to move it out of the driver's seat, buckle it in the back, let it grumble, and keep your hands on the wheel. Love asks for risk, not recklessness. It asks for truth, not theatrics. It asks for the part of you that's still willing to hope, even after the glass. So take a breath. Lift your eyes. Say the thing you've been scared to say. Ask for the pace that lets your body relax. Share the messy version of your story. Choose the person who meets your vulnerability with care. If it grows, beautiful. If it ends, bless it. Either way, you didn't fail. You showed up. Imagine staring at your own reflection, not to fix your hair, but to answer a harder question. Are you someone you can count on? The world's opinion is loud, sure, but there's a quieter, sharper sting when you feel like you've let yourself down. That's the one that lingers. That's the one that keeps you up. Here's the part we rarely admit out loud. We fear other people's disappointment, but we fear our own even more. Not because we love punishment, but because we know what it does to trust. Your trust in you. So let's flip it. The goal isn't to be perfect. It's to be trustworthy to yourself. Not harsher rules, kinder boundaries, not bigger promises, smaller ones you actually keep. When you see the contrast clearly, you feel the shift. It's not a willpower contest, it's a trust-building practice. Picture a morning. You said you'd get up at 7 and write for 20 minutes. The alarm rings, you bargain for 5, then 10, you check a message, a headline. Suddenly you're out of time. The worst part isn't the missed page. It's the moment you meet yourself again and think, there I go. I did it to me. That tiny fracture isn't about discipline, it's about identity. It's about whether you believe your own word. Or imagine this. You tell yourself, I'll start the habit Monday. Monday arrives late, crowded, messy, like it always does. By night you say, fine, tomorrow then. One delay becomes a story, and stories have gravity. The longer you live inside, I disappoint myself, the heavier it gets. Psychologically, what helps isn't self-attack, it's safety. When you feel safe with yourself, like you'll be met with honesty and patience, not shame, resistance drops. You get curious instead of defensive. You try again. That sense of safety isn't fluff, it's fuel. It lowers emotional walls and opens the door to real change. So what rebuilds self-trust? Start tiny, insultingly tiny. A 1-minute version of the thing you care about. Read a paragraph. Stretch while the kettle boils. Write 2 messy sentences. Keep it embarrassingly doable so your brain gets proof. Proof matters. With each kept promise, you teach your nervous system we follow through. Confidence isn't magic, it's evidence. And here's the twist, that evidence stacks faster with consistency than with intensity. Name your promise out loud before you start. Not to impress anyone, but to hear yourself claim it. Then do it, even clumsily. After, tell yourself the truth. I showed up. Not perfectly, but I showed up. That's positive reinforcement that targets the behavior you chose, not some flawless outcome. Over time, this builds real self-efficacy, the felt sense that you can initiate and complete what you intend. It's compatible with a growth mindset. Effort signals progress, not proof of weakness. You'll slip. Of course you will. When you do, skip the courtroom and go straight to repair. Ask, what got in the way? Reduce friction by 1 notch. Set the bar lower and nearer. Choose a next step so small it feels almost silly. Then keep it. Psychologically, each repair is a powerful message. I don't abandon myself when I fall. I return. That one belief changes how you approach every promise. Work, health, relationships, the quiet commitments nobody sees. Let's make this practical. Right now. Think of one promise you keep breaking with yourself. Not 5, 1. Shrink it. Define the 1-minute version. Place it where you can't miss it. Say it out loud, then keep it today, not forever. Today. Ask yourself gently, what would my days look like if my word to myself weighed more than my mood? And what would my life feel like if I trusted me? Take a breath. You're not trying to impress the crowd. You're learning to believe your own voice again. That belief doesn't arrive with a trumpet. It shows up quietly, the way mornings turn into daylight. Moment by moment, promise by promise. When you string those moments together, something shifts. You stop living scared of your own disappointment and start living proud of your follow-through. That pride is quiet. It's steady. It's yours. Make fewer promises. Keep more of them. Let the small wins stack until they change the story. That's how the fear loses leverage and how your trust returns, not in a dramatic scene, but in the simple, repeatable, ordinary acts that become who you are. You ever have that moment where it feels like someone rearranged the furniture in your life overnight, and you're walking around in the dark, bumping your shin on everything you thought you knew? You reach for a plan that used to be there, and your hand closes on air. The road you mapped out, the one with neat arrows and clear exits, suddenly looks like fog and flashing detours. There's a quiet panic under that. Not loud, not dramatic. It's a low hum that follows you through the day. You look at your calendar and think, this is supposed to lead somewhere, but the somewhere keeps moving. You refresh your email, your feed, your bank app, as if certainty might show up in a notification. It doesn't. And there it is, the whisper. You try not to say out loud, I'm not in control of my future. Let's breathe here, because this fear is so human. It's almost universal, and it's sneaky. It doesn't always feel like fear. It shows up in disguise, over-planning until you're exhausted, procrastinating because you can't pick the perfect first step, bargaining with imaginary outcomes, doom scrolling like it's a surveillance system for anxiety. You call it being prepared, but really it's a way to wrangle a sky that won't hold still. Here's the uncomfortable truth, followed by the not-so-scary explanation. The future has never been yours to control. That sounds harsh. It isn't. It's just precise. You can influence, you can prepare, you can choose. Control? That's a word the mind uses when it wants a guarantee. And guarantees are the currency of fantasy. Think of a river. Not a wild metaphor, something simple. You don't control the river. You steer the canoe. You read the current, adjust your paddle, keep your center steady. That's influence, that's skill, that's presence. Control would mean telling the water how to flow. You can try. You'll end up wet, tired, and angry at the weather. So what do you do right now with that feeling that the future is slipping out of your hands? You come back to the one place your hands actually touch, the present choice. The next right move, not the next 100. The smallest lever, not the whole machine. Start tiny, smaller than you think. A breath, slow and grounded until your shoulders drop a little. Name what's real, out loud if you can. I'm worried about my job. I'm anxious about money. I'm scared to fail. Say the real thing, not the polished version. Naming it doesn't make it bigger. It gives it edges. And things with edges can be held. Then shrink the future down to one actionable beat. Not a 5-year plan, not even a 5-month plan. Today, what's the one step that moves the needle? Send the email. Rework the resume. Drink water. Go for a 10-minute walk. Call the person who gives you honest perspective. If you resist that simplicity, notice it. That resistance is the mind craving a grand solution, because grand solutions feel like control. But life changes by inches, not leaps. Inches stack. Inches matter. Protect your focus like it's your oxygen. That doesn't mean cutting yourself off from the world. It means narrowing the window so the whirlwind doesn't knock everything over. You can do this in quiet ways. Choose one project to move for 1 hour. Silence your notifications for that hour. Put your phone in another room, and if that feels impossible, that's a sign you're onto something. The brain loves chaos when it's afraid. Chaos feels like movement. It isn't. Stillness feels like nothing. It isn't. Stillness is where you can hear your own voice. Ask better questions, not, what if everything goes wrong? Try, what is within my influence today? Not, how do I guarantee success? Try, how do I increase my odds? Not, how do I stop being afraid? Try, how do I carry fear and move anyway? These questions aren't magical. They're practice. They shape your attention toward what you can actually touch. Build a pocket of predictability you can return to when the edges blur. A simple morning ritual, not elaborate, something you'll actually keep. Make the bed. Write 3 lines about what you want to move. Step outside and feel real air. Repeat it until it becomes a floor under your feet. Consistency makes safety. Safety makes courage. And about courage, people think it's the opposite of fear. It isn't. Courage is fear with movement. It's your hand shaking while you dial, your voice wobbling while you ask, your legs heavy but still taking the stairs. Courage is small and quiet and stubborn. It's not a roar. It's a whisper that refuses to shut up. Will you still have moments when the future feels like quicksand? Of course, you're not a robot. Those moments are invitations to return, to reduce, to relocate your power from the horizon to the ground under you, to remember that certainty isn't the prize, aliveness is. And aliveness needs risk, and risk needs you to accept that you'll never have a perfect map. So if your mind is bargaining with the universe, trying to lock down a guarantee, try this instead. Choose one step you can be proud of at day's end. One step that aligns with your values, not just your fears. You'll stack those steps. They'll become a path. It won't look straight. It won't look glossy. It'll look like yours. And when the fear spikes again, and it will, place your attention back in your body, in this breath, in this room. Notice one thing you can see, one thing you can hear, one thing you can touch. Remind yourself, gently but firmly, I don't control the future. I influence the next moment. I steer the canoe. That's enough. More than enough. You're not failing because you can't command what hasn't happened yet. You're learning how to meet what will. And you, right here, with your imperfect courage and your small, consistent moves, you're exactly the kind of person a future can trust. There's a kind of loneliness that shows up even in a crowded room, a quiet panic that whispers, "No one here speaks my language." You can say all the right words and still feel invisible. You explain, you clarify, you try again, and somehow the meaning leaks out between the lines. It's like you hand someone a map of your insides and they keep asking for directions to somewhere else. Here's a thought that might soften that fear. Being understood isn't a single event. It's a slow bridge. Not one grand moment, but many small planks. And some of those planks are yours to lay down. Start with this tiny move. Tell people what the feeling is, not just the story. Give them the headline you wish they'd catch. Try, "I'm not looking for fixes, I'm looking for someone to stand with me." Or, "I'm proud, but I'm also scared I'll be judged." Naming the feeling draws a circle around it so others can see where to stand. Naming gives it weight, which makes it easier to hold together, not alone. That simple act often changes everything because it gives the other person a way in. Picture a conversation after a hard day. You vent. They jump in with solutions and your stomach drops. Now picture a different moment. You say, "I'm frustrated and I just want the frustration to be seen." They reply, "That sounds heavy. I can feel how much it's weighing on you." Notice the shift? When the feeling is mirrored first, your guard loosens and the rest can actually land. Psychologically, being heard creates safety. It lowers defenses and opens the door to a better exchange. When someone feels seen and understood, they're more open to conversation, the tension drops, and connection takes the lead. Another small plank. Offer your user manual. A line like, "When I get quiet, I'm not checked out. I'm sorting my thoughts." Or, "If I look away, I'm not avoiding you. I'm trying to find the right words." That's not oversharing. That's lighting the path. You're translating the signals your nervous system sends so someone else doesn't misread them. And here's the twist most of us miss. The more we try to be endlessly clear, the more we forget that clarity is relational. It's built, not broadcast. Invite responses that help you fine-tune your signal. Ask, "What did you hear me say?" Then listen for the echo. If it's off, try "Let me say it a different way." That back and forth, A small test, a small revision, makes understanding sturdier than any perfect first try. Psychologically, this kind of listening and adjusting creates an environment where both people feel respected and autonomous, which keeps the space collaborative rather than defensive. One more plank, and it's a brave one. Say the wish out loud. Try, I want to feel understood right now, or what I need most is to feel like you get the part that hurts. It might feel vulnerable, but giving your need a name gives it shape, and things with shape can be held. Noticing is one thing, naming it out loud gives it weight that can be shared, and sometimes that's what changes the conversation entirely. Will anyone ever understand you completely? Maybe not. And oddly, that's not the point, because the fear says all or nothing. But life gives us something else. Moments. Moments where someone mirrors your feeling, where a single sentence lands, where your inner world finds a handhold in someone else. String enough of those moments together, and the bridge is there, plank by plank. You won't have to shout across the canyon anymore. You'll hear something better than your own echo. You'll hear, I'm with you. And that's what being truly understood begins to sound like. There's a quiet clock in your chest that no one else can hear, and some days it ticks like a dare. You feel it when you're brushing your teeth, when you close your laptop, when the room goes still. It whispers a question you don't want to answer. What if you never become who you could be? The words sting because you've seen flashes of it. Moments that felt like runway lights lining up. A line you wrote, a conversation that woke something up. A shot you took that landed. You got a glimpse. And then life pulled at your sleeves, the to-dos multiplied, people needed things, and that bright feeling faded like chalk in the rain. So the fear sets up camp. It doesn't shout, it hums. It says, be careful, don't waste time, don't pick the wrong path, don't disappoint anyone, don't look foolish. It sounds reasonable, almost helpful. But notice what it does. It keeps you planning. It keeps you waiting for some perfect certainty that never arrives. Here's the twist. Potential is not a finish line. It's not a prize you grab once and keep forever. Potential is movement. It's a direction your life knows how to face, like a compass. It's not north itself. It's your ability to turn north again and again, even on messy days. When you chase a finish line, you hold your breath. When you follow a direction, you breathe. You might worry that if you accept this, you'll get lazy. But acceptance isn't surrender, it's fuel. When you stop pretending the fear will go away, you can start walking with it and it stops steering. Ask yourself softly, not like a test. What am I avoiding because it might prove I'm not good enough yet? Give that answer a chair. Let it sit across from you. Picture it clearly. The manuscript, the application, the phone call, the canvas. Whatever it is, let it be ordinary. Don't make it mythical. Most destinies wear sweatpants. Now, another question. What's the smallest honest move here? Not the perfect plan, not the entire overhaul of your life. The smallest honest move, a half page, a single email, 20 minutes on the floor sketching an outline, one conversation that would break the stalemate. If you can't name it, you'll never start it. If you can name it, you can do it. Your fear will say, that's too small to matter. Smile and nod, then do it anyway. Momentum is a quiet miracle. It doesn't brag. It opens doors that planning never finds. It helps to rename the fear. Don't call it failure. Call it growth pain. Imagine a muscle the day after a workout. That ache is proof of life. It's the body saying, we're repairing, we're getting stronger. The fear of not reaching your potential is the ache of caring. It's the sign you're alive enough to want more. Will people judge you? Of course, people judge when they're scared of their own mirror. Let them. Your job is to keep yours clean. Every time you take a small, honest step, you wipe the fog off the glass. You can look yourself in the eye and say, I moved. Today counts. Here's a reframe you can carry in your pocket. Potential isn't something you reach. It's something you practice. Practice looks like reps, not big fireworks. Reps. Show up, do the thing, rest, repeat. Reps create identity. Identity composes a life. But what if you're late? What if years have gone by? Time is elastic for people who take responsibility. You compress it with focus. You stretch it with distraction. Today expands when you choose one thing that matters and give it your full attention, even for a small slice. That's how you build a day that feels like you. Enough days like that, and your life changes shape. You'll be tempted to compare, to scroll through highlight reels and conclude you're behind. When that happens, breathe and ask, compared to what? Compared to their story, which you don't know? Or compared to your last step? Compare to your last step. It's the only fair fight. Another question, and give it space. If I knew I couldn't reach some perfect version of my potential, would I still want to do this one next thing? If the answer is yes, good. You found the living part. If the answer is no, also good. You've saved time. Potential isn't a prison. It's permission. Sometimes you'll pause, not because you're lazy, but because you're human. Fatigue, grief, uncertainty, they visit all of us. When they do, switch from performance to presence. Notice what's true. Care for your body. Ask a friend to sit with you. Even slow days can be faithful days. You're still facing your direction. A simple practice for the next week. Each morning, write down one move toward your direction. Just one. Say it out loud, then do it before the world gets loud. When you finish, write one line. Today counted. At night, read that line back. Feel it. Let your nervous system hear that you're not waiting anymore. And when the fear returns, because it will, greet it like an old teacher. Thanks for trying to protect me. I'm okay. I'm moving. You can ride in the back seat. Here's the quiet truth underneath all the noise. You are not a machine built to hit maximum output. You're a person. You grow unevenly. You bloom in seasons. You outgrow old dreams and stitch new ones. That's not failure. That's life doing what life does. So, when the clock in your chest starts ticking loud, when it dares you with that question, smile and answer it in the simplest way possible. Take one small, honest step, then another and another. Potential doesn't live at the end of some distant road. It lives here, in your next breath, in your next choice, in the steady, imperfect, brave practice of becoming the person you already are when you forget to be afraid. You know that quiet panic that slips in when the room is still, when the dishes are done and the day is over? It whispers, what if I leave nothing? What if everything I've been carrying disappears the second I'm gone? Here's the reframe. You're measuring difference like a billboard, when most of what changes us arrives like a handwritten note. Not a monument, a moment. Not fame, a fingerprint on one person's day that keeps smudging forward. Think about the small hinges your life already swings on. The neighbour who planted a tree years ago that now shadows your window at noon. A teacher who scribbled, I see how hard you're trying, on a paper you were sure would sink you. A stranger who held a door when your hands were full and your mind was even fuller. They didn't build a statue, they nudged the world, and the world moved. Here's what we forget. Our brains chase what's loud and overlook what's steady. We get used to the same acts of care and stop feeling their weight, even while they keep shaping us in quiet ways. That's the brain's habit of tuning out repeated signals, but the effects keep stacking anyway. So if the fear is, I'll die without making a difference, try asking a different question. What if your legacy isn't a headline, but a chain reaction? What if being remembered by many matters less than being remembered by one at the exact moment they almost gave up? Psychologically, humans open up when they feel seen, safe, and honored. That's when words land and actions stick. So your legacy starts smaller than you think. It starts every time you create that sense of safety for someone else. When you actually look up from your screen and say, "Tell me more." When you circle back to apologize without excuses. When you name someone's effort out loud, not just their outcome. Those moments don't trend. They root. Let's make it practical. Pick one value you'd be proud to leave behind. Kindness, courage, honesty, curiosity. Say it out loud. Then give it a job today. If it's kindness, send the message you've been putting off, the one that says, "I've been thinking of you." If it's courage, set the boundary you've been avoiding. If it's honesty, admit you're tired and ask for help. If it's curiosity, learn one new thing and share it with someone who could use the spark. And here's the twist. Small acts repeated create identity, and identity outlives attention. You might still hear the old voice, the one that says, "But it needs to be big." It's lying. Big is rarely what moves a human heart. Presence moves it. Consistency moves it. The right word, in the right moment, from the right person. That's the kind of difference that becomes a story people tell when your name isn't in the room anymore. Psychologically, that's the power of felt recognition and safety. It lowers defenses and deepens trust, which is why it lasts. So here's a simple rhythm you can actually keep. Notice, repair, share, teach, plant. Notice when someone's trying. Repair the tiny break before it becomes a crack. Share what you know without keeping score. Teach the trick you wish you'd learned sooner. Plant something that takes longer to grow than your patience. A tree, a habit, a belief in someone who's still unsure. Will you change the whole world? Maybe not, but you will change someone's world. And that counts. The fear says you'll vanish. The truth is softer and stronger. You'll echo, and if you need one last permission slip to breathe, take this. The difference you make doesn't have to be loud to be real. It doesn't have to be seen to be felt. Live so a handful of people feel safer, braver, more themselves because you were here. That's a legacy. That's enough. If the universe had a face, would it look back at you or right through you? That question slips in when the noise stops. In the shower, on a late walk, staring at the ceiling in the dark. You feel it in your chest like a low hum under everything. What if none of this matters? What if you're moving, working, loving, and it all dissolves into nothing? You're not strange for thinking it. You're not broken. You're human. Your mind is a pattern machine searching for a thread big enough to hold the whole sky. And the sky is big, too big for one neat story. That gap between what you want to hold and what you can hold, that's where the fear lives. It shows up in different costumes. After a win that felt great for a minute, then went flat. After a loss that took the colour out of the room. In the middle of errands, when you catch your reflection and wonder who's steering. Sometimes it feels poetic. Mostly it just feels heavy. Here's a quiet truth. Meaning isn't a trophy waiting at the end of the hallway. Meaning is friction. It's the warmth from small things rubbing together. Your attention, your effort, your care. That warmth is real. You can feel it. That's not philosophy. That's your nervous system saying, yes, this matters to me. So when the question hits, Does any of this mean anything? Try this. Pause. Place a hand on your chest. Feel the weight of your hand, the rise and fall. Name 3 true things you can sense right now. Your breath, the chair under you, a sound in the room. This simple naming is an anchor. You're telling your body, I'm still here. I'm connected to something. Then ask a smaller question. Not, what is the meaning of life? Ask, where does meaning show up today for me? Shrink the frame. Make it local, specific, concrete. Meaning likes specifics. It lives in verbs. What can you tend? What can you build? Who can you serve? If that sounds too grand, make it smaller. Make something by hand. A meal, a note, a sketch on scrap paper. Tend one living thing. A plant, a pet, a relationship that needs a call. Offer one kindness. Hold a door. Tip a little extra. Send a message that says, thinking of you. None of these will solve the cosmos. They will warm your corner of it. That warmth is proof you're not alone. And here's the twist. You don't have to feel meaningful to create meaning. Feelings lag, actions lead. You move your hands, and slowly your heart follows. Like a match to kindling, small flame, small light, but in darkness, small is huge. What if the big purpose isn't a single shining destiny? What if it's a rope you braid each day from thinner threads? Attention, connection, contribution. You notice something. You show up for someone. You add a piece to the world that wasn't there before. Braid those threads long enough, and when you look back, you'll see a line you can trust. It won't be loud, it will be yours. Does this erase the fear? No. The fear will ride shotgun. It will whisper, why bother? Nod at it. Don't wrestle. Let it sit. Keep your hands on the wheel. Keep driving. If the road feels empty, name the mile you're in. 1 page written. 1 sink cleared. 1 honest conversation. 1 deep breath when you wanted to bolt. Every time you choose to care, you lay another stone in a path you can walk tomorrow. Ask yourself gently, if nothing is guaranteed, what do I still choose? Because that's the secret tucked inside the dread. If nothing is guaranteed, you're free to choose. Not because the universe signed a contract, but because your choice is how you meet the universe. That meeting is meaning. That moment is life. You're allowed to not know where it's all going. You're allowed to grieve the things that didn't happen. You're allowed to rest. And still, you can make a little room for wonder. Step outside at night. Find 1 star or 1 street lamp if the sky's not clear, and let your eyes soften. Tell yourself out loud if you can, I'm here. I care. I will make this small moment count. If the universe looks right through you, fine, you can look back. You can be the part of the universe that notices, the part that holds, the part that chooses love over numbness, craft over chaos, presence over panic. You don't need a perfect answer to feel your own pulse. You don't need a master plan to offer your hands. You're not a mistake. You're a sentence the world is still writing. And today, you get a word. Pick one that leans toward life. Light 1 candle, even if the room is full of shadows. It won't banish the dark. It will make you see your face. And that's meaning enough for now.